Not a good letter. We're on.
Good evening, fellas.
Hello.
Hello there.
Evening all. How are we?
Is there anyone there, Andy? We don't know.
Not yet.
Nah, not this
Save
time.
your hellos.
I've got
Well,
a little,
people
got a little screen saying to watch now, so I'm sure everyone else has got the same thing now. I'm sure these things run a little bit behind anyway, don't they?
Yeah, just to give a bit of time for your signal to boost up.
Yeah, so if I need to. Well, we've got some people on. If you are joining, please say hello in the comments so we know who we've got on. Let's have a look. Got Nathan joining.
Nathan.
Cheers, Nate.
Must be early in the morning, Andy.
Peter was the guy who sent me the VCLC.
Oh, the
that we did the video for, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Quality.
That was a great box.
Yeah, it was.
Unbelievable. Thank you very much, Peter. Mr. Hickey.
How you doing, Trev?
Only one for a few. Excellent. Nice one, Trev. Good to see you.
Okay, we're up to double figures now. Should we dive into this?
Let's crack on.
Let's start. Mark G with an A. So, as you're always going to imagine, it's pretty much going to be thrash or death metal that I'm going to show. So it's no different this time. And I'm going to show you this band. Road Racer Records, released in '88. I found out about this band due to this compilation. And I've talked about in videos in the past about how important in the late 80s these compilation CDs or LPs were from the record companies. It was one of your only ways of finding out about bands. And the second to last track is Atrophy, Chemical Dependency. So there's a few labels. There was Road Racer, Noise, Earache, Nuclear Blast. You always knew you were going to get decent bands on there, and this is one of them. And I always found this band, they missed the boat somehow. There was a lot of new thrash bands coming around in the late 80s, but this is just a real underrated thrash band. I think they only did two albums, but from Arizona, so the same place as Sacred Reich and Flotsam and Jetsam, and they were definitely the sort of poor relations, if you will. But if you've never heard Atrophy, you need to. They're a quality thrash metal band. Great vocalist Brian Zimmerman spits the vocals out. It's kind of half growl, half sort of vocals. Really, it's intelligent thrash. It's got the typical sort of subject matter. It was all very not political, but they sang about real life matters, didn't they? But yeah, it's speed thrash, really well played. Why this band weren't bigger, I've got no idea. I presume they just got lost in the plethora of thrash bands that were coming through in the late 80s. So yeah, that's it. Atrophy, Socialize. Hey, this is their debut release, and like I say, they only released 2 albums. Right.
Well, I also pulled this album because I've got a band coming up that I learned from this too, and actually this is the only Atrophy that I own as well. So I do like their song Chemical Dependency, but I've never come across any of their albums. Obviously, I'd probably be looking for it on vinyl first and foremost, but I often forget about them as well. If I'm actually looking for CDs and looking for thrash and searching for thrash, then I just never think to look for them. So yeah, they have got have kind of got forgotten, certainly for me along the way. But that Chemical Dependency is a great track.
I've heard of Atrophy. I've never heard any of their stuff, so I can't really weigh in too much. But I'll definitely check them out because it's something Sounds like something I would enjoy anyway. So I don't know why I've not checked them out already, to be honest. But yeah, I can't really weigh in. So sounds good though.
I think their stuff's quite hard to get hold of. You know, I think whether they were low presses compared to some of the other road racer bands at the time, I don't know, but it is very hard to get hold of the stuff now for a good price. You know, it really holds its money. God knows how much the vinyl is. I know the CD. It's very rare you see it on eBay, and if you do see it, you're looking at £30-40. You know, so it's not something you're going to pick up just to think I'll check them out. You know, but they are a great band. I'll let Mike speak.
I'm not really any different to Scott in this either. I haven't even got any memory of that song off Stars on Thrash, which I did have that album years ago back in the day, but that didn't jump out to me at the time, and I can't really explain why either. I just they just passed me by. Probably availability even back then, and I never seen it in my local shops. There was a shop in my town, and there was another shop an hour away. And to be quite honest, back in the 80s, they were the only two shops that I'd frequented. Apart from the big shop like Woolies on the high street, they were never going to sell that. So I suppose if I'd ever seen it in front of me for a cheap price, I'd have just took a chance on it anyways, by the look of it. But I can't recall them at all. I just know they've been shown in the VC over the last few years that I've been in, but I know nothing about them, I'm afraid. So I feel a bit like an imposter.
I don't think it helps either when you look at there's 15 tracks on this Stars on Thrash. Flotsam and Jetsam were right number one. Atrophy, it was the 14th song on there. So, you had a lot of good bands that you were going to have to get through to get to that point,
Yeah.
Flotsam and Jetsam, DRI, Pestilence, Toxic, Paradox, Stormtroopers of Death, Slayer, Sacred Reich. So, maybe getting to that point, it's a long listen, isn't it? And when you're a kid and you get into this, you hear a song you like and you bang that on again and again and again. So I don't know, but a seriously underrated thrash band in my opinion.
Right.
That's probably going to be one of them Russian bootlegs now. If I pick that up, if I give it a listen, it would have to be, because I don't think I would fancy dropping 30 quid on it.
Yeah. And the second album, like Peter's saying there, Violent by Nature, that's just as good as the debut. It was what they put out was quality. But I don't know. It was one of those bands. Hello, Bev.
Hiya, Bev. Hello, everybody. Sorry, I've just picked out Bev there, but anyone that's watching the stream, hello. We can't see. There's only Andy privy to who's present. Where's Scott?
We seem to have lost Scott. He's gone off to the album, I think. So
it's not like Scott to disappear during one of our live streams, is it?
He's got a weak bladder, I think. So shall we move on then? All right, he's coming back.
He's next.
As long as he's not B, we're in trouble. We're in trouble if he's B.
No, I'm B. I'm B. I'm going to go ahead. Scott, you're still on a black screen if you don't know. But right, so I have gone. Well, his looks have improved. No. So I've gone for a pretty much a straight up American heavy metal band from 1988, and this is Banshee with Cry in the Night. It's like a mini LP EP, 5 tracks on it. That's what they look like. I'm going to big me up, as Mike says. There we go. And this is great, straight up American heavy metal. Has that American sound, not that really commercial MTV American metal sound, but just straight up heavy metal. And I bought this one, actually, was one of the albums I bought when I was out with my work in the Boston area in the US, and I met up with Rob Panik's Bit Bop Boom and Helmut Diggy, and Helmut Diggy used to do videos at the time, and it was John Bit Bop Boom that made me buy this. He picked this up, he came across the record shop, put it in my hand and said, if you haven't got this, you have to buy it. and it cost me $10.99 from the Armageddon shop in Boston, and yeah, it's really good. This one is worth checking out on YouTube if you've not heard it. It's nothing fancy, just great heavy metal.
When you say you went to America, to Boston, Andy, was that your missionary work you were referring to there?
Well, my mission when I was there was to buy some records if I could get some time off. So I was mission accomplished.
They passed me by. The only Banshee I heard was one a couple of years ago that Scott Waters reissued, and I thought that was a great album, but I've never heard anything else. So
was that Mindslave, was it?
Yeah, and
yeah,
that one that you're holding up there, it just has that expensive CD look about it.
Hey, Frankie.
But no, I've not heard it. So when you're saying the American heavy metal, is it sort of like Omen and?
Yeah, I mean it's. I mean the UK metal scene had its own sound. I think the American metal scene has its own sound. But sometimes when I think of American heavy metal, I often think of kind of the MTV, a little bit sugary, very commercial sounding. But that wasn't it. Consider it was what 88. It could well have been, but. It's worth listening to. I'm saying it's great riffs, great songs, and for ages I didn't realise it was called. I wondered why on Discogs it was called "Cry in the Night," which is the last song on the album, and I didn't notice that each of the blood things here had a lettering, and I probably had it for about a year or so before I realised that it was actually the name of the album. I thought it was just self-titled. Oh, Scott's coming back. So,
excellent. Come on, Scott.
This is the album. We're all waiting for you.
Here he is.
Did you catch any of that, Scott?
McFly?
Can you hear us, Scott?
I can hear Mike and I can hear Mark. I can't hear Andy.
Technical difficulties.
Well,
anyway, let me jump in on the Banshee. I had never heard of the band at all. I don't remember reading about them. I just never heard of them until I joined the VC and started making videos, and it was obviously Scott Waters re-released it on his label that made me aware of it. And then obviously I think I'd seen Darcy. I'd seen a couple of people showing it. But yeah, just one of those bands that for some reason I never even heard it mentioned in the magazines. And when I look at that logo, I always sort of get the idea that they were going to be a bit more glam metal than they are.
Yeah.
It's got that glam look, the logo. So to hear that it's proper heavy metal is interesting, and I will check it out. I think Scott did send me a promo of the release of theirs, but I've never actually got round to listening to it, so I shall make that. I'll make that my mission.
What label's that one on, Andy? It looks like it would be on. What do they call that label in America that a lot of bands were on, like Chastain and stuff?
Oh, this is on Metal Blade.
Oh, right.
Are you thinking of Combat?
Thinking of what?
Are you thinking of Combat?
No, I can't think what label I'm thinking of now.
An American label.
No,
is it like like?
What should you think makes for great TV?
I can't hear Mark now. Right, I'll just quickly chime in. I'm not. I don't know a lot of Banshee. All I've heard is Mindslave, and I thought Mindslave was a superb album. I'm still actually looking for that. I think it's the same band, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a superb album, but I've not actually heard the one you just held up. But I missed your whole speech, so I'll just say yeah.
You have to go back and watch the recording.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll just be a viewer.
You can post a comment and I'll reply. Right, shall we move on to C?
To see.
Oh no.
Crimson Glory. I actually never heard of. Wait till I get my camera right. I never actually heard of Crimson Glory until I came in the VC, and it was a name that was mentioned quite a lot when I first started making videos. And it's one of those bands that I had to check out. They were kind of putting the same kind of place in metal as like Sabotage and Queensryche, that kind of progressive stuff. And honestly, I was sold from the first song. It just blew me away. I thought, why have I not listened to this before? Released in 1986. The first two obviously were like their biggest releases. They had like a lot of trouble with the singer Midnight, who's actually a superb vocalist. They had a lot of trouble with like disbanding and stuff and going on hiatus. But the first two are absolutely awesome. And this is the album that got me into Crimson Glory in the first place. So that is Crimson Glory. Some progressive metal for you.
You actually sent me that, didn't you, on CD a few years ago?
I think I sent you it on CD and I sent Andy it on vinyl.
You sent me that on vinyl. In fact, both Crimson Glory albums I've got were VCLT, so I've done well there.
Sorry, Mark.
To me now, they've been superseded by Sabotage. They were very similar to that. And Sabotage, I'm enjoying more now. But back in the day, when those albums come out, them guys had these like silver half masks on or something. And the 15-year-old me couldn't run away fast enough in the opposite direction of that. I wasn't even curious as to what they might sound like, and even though they are good now and years later I can appreciate them, they were so off-putting to a 15-year-old me. I just totally ignored them.
Yeah, I was exactly the same. I've since revisited them, and I think it's the second album. Is it Transcendence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's an absolute cracking album. And Scott's right, Midnight's vocals. He's right up there with the top singers of the day. There's no doubt about it. But I'm exactly the same as Mike. They came along. They had all this Phantom of the Opera, metallic Phantom of the Opera gear on, and I was just, at the time, the music I was into, it was just jeans and t-shirt. And if they were dressed any different to that, like the whole Manowar thing we spoke about last time, just put me right off the age I was at the time. But I have revisited them, and the first two albums, I think I've got the third album as well, but it's not a touch on the first two albums. Yeah, highly recommended. Really, really enjoy their stuff. And glad to revisit them as I am with a lot of bands nowadays. Can you hear me now, Scott?
Can you hear you now, Mark?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear Mike.
Do you have a full house?
Oh, I have a full house. I'm feeling good.
Boom.
Okay. Tell you what, before we move on, I just want to say to everyone that's watching, thanks for following the new channel. Obviously, jumping over from posting this on mine to a dedicated channel so the four of us can collaborate on stuff was a little bit of a gamble, I think, but it looks like most people who watch the other ones have followed us over as well. We've got about 30 people watching at the moment, which is roughly what we were on in the previous video. So thanks all for jumping across.
Yeah, superb.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks very much.
But time is never our friend on these videos. So who's got
I've got D. And D, I'm going for the Dogs More Inside the Dynamite Jet Saloon from 1988. And this is sort of I don't know. It's definitely not metal, I'm afraid. if you're uninitiated, they are not a metal band. They've got more in common probably with the Rolling Stones than Guns N' Roses. But I love their early work. This is a box set of the first 5 albums, and you can pick one of them up for less than a tenner. But that particular album, that Inside the Dynamite Jet Saloon, that's their first. Well, technically, it's not the first album, but most people would say it is the first album. And it's just great hard rock with a bit of sleaze thrown in. They had a lot of success in the late 80s in the UK, charted almost every time they released a single for a few years there. But I don't know whether or not they travelled overseas. I can see Frankie, he has heard of them anyway, for definite. But I don't know whether it was just you had to be there or what. What do you guys think of them?
Well, I think there's another band that I discovered from videos in the VC. It's a band that I'd never really heard of before, and I checked them out. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't a fan. It's kind of more like straight up kind of rock and roll, is it not? It's like more rock and roll than metal or hard rock. So
it's difficult for me to get on that, and you're probably right on reflection. But when it's sort of the mid '80s, anyone with long hair kind of qualified as metal to me.
Yeah, they all kind of blend in with each other. But
yeah,
I think I gave it was one album. I can't remember what the album was called, but I think it was maybe on your recommendation, and it just didn't click with me at all. So I think it's maybe I was just looking for that kind of maybe harder edge to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I got introduced to them when the single "How Come It Never Rains," and I absolutely love that song. And it's not typical of the music I was listening to at the time. And this is back in. I got the single from Spillers Records in Cardiff when it came out, and it's a signed copy as well. I think it's got Tyler's signature on it. I didn't get it. It was on the. It was a sort of shop that when people came and played in Cardiff, they would actually go in because it was a record shop right in the centre of town, and there was often signed records in there. They'd either done a signing in the shop and left some extra ones to be sold, but I didn't get the album until recently. And I love that album, and I've always kind of classed it as metal. I mean, I'm trying not to be. I'm not that. There's a lots of bands that people probably say weren't metal that I'm quite happy to just all lump in the same bucket, and it's a really good album, I think. Quite mellow in places, but yeah, one that I pull out occasionally. Really enjoy.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm with Scott on it. I think there was like Dogs D'Amour and there was the Choir Boys, and they kind of seemed to come along at similar times in the UK. And I just, again, I think it was just the journey I was on, the path I was on. They were just, I wasn't sort of keen on all the handkerchiefs hanging out the pockets and just those things. I think the kind of image, they look like a band of gypsies, if you will, And it was like
not what you were at that time, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure people must have thought I was whatever, but.
See, what helped me was they came to my town and played, and I got to meet Tyler, and I got this huge poster signed, and all that when you're a kid helps you become a bigger fan, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives you, it's a soft spot, isn't it? It's like, have you ever told you the story when I saw Zentrix? Anyway.
God.
You get a soft spot for these bands, don't you? And I completely get that. But it was a bit too light for me. It was a bit, and I know Andy sort of says the metal, but I think they're a bit more rock, more the sort of the bluesy rock.
I'm not going to argue with it.
Yeah,
and like I say, it was them and the Choir Boys came along, and I didn't take to either of them, unfortunately. And I've never really gone back. I maybe should, really, if to make sure, I should really revisit them and have a listen. But I can just remember from back in the late 80s that I wasn't a fan.
Cool.
Knock him off, Andy.
No, we've got all kinds of weirdos in here.
Well, then also, yeah.
That's the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it.
Okay, we're on to E.
So, Mark G with an E. This is a band, and talking about Stars on Thrash and the way that you get into bands back in the day. I remember seeing Dan Lilker from Nuclear Assault wearing a T-shirt of this band. And this is XL from Venice Beach in the USA.
I love myself.
He was wearing a T-shirt, black and white T-shirt with his face on. This is the album, The Joke's on You, from '89. And it's thrash metal. It's crossover thrash, as they would sort of say back then. Whether it's not as heavy as Suicidal Tendencies or DRI, but it's kind of that skater thrash. I know it's not for everyone. The vocals, that typical sort of punky attitude vocals, and it's a great album. It's Caroline Records, and if you ever get the chance, and I've spoken to a few people about this, there's a song on it, the 4th track, called Tapping into the Emotional Void. Please give that song a listen to the intro riff on it, and tell me Metallica didn't rip this song off when they wrote Enter Sandman. It basically is an acoustic start, but it is the Enter Sandman riff. And they also do a cover of the Police's Message in a Bottle, which is, if I can get it in the camera there. I'm not a huge fan of cover versions, but they do a cracking job, I have to say. And again, one of those bands that I know that thrash fans weren't always a big fan of the crossover sort of skater thrash, because it was a bit more light-hearted than normal thrash. But if you do like thrash metal, I would give this band a try. XL, The Joke's on You.
Never heard of them. Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
We're being brutal. We're being brutal this week. I like it.
And the other bands that you've mentioned, like they're like Suicidal Tendencies and what have you. Yeah, I know a few of those. But yeah, fortunately, that's one I've just made a note of, and that song that you've just said there, I'll give that a go, and see where we go.
I'm the same. I've never heard of the band. I was actually looking. I haven't even seen the cover before. I was looking at the cover, going, "What the hell is that?" But like you say, I know what you're talking about. The skater kind of thrash. I don't know if I'd be into that sort of thrash, but I'll definitely give it a go. As always do. But yeah, I've never heard of that band at all. Do you just want to maybe just two of us do this video this week, or?
Well, you've got a full house, because I've not heard them either. But I remember Dan Lilker wearing a shirt. But Dan Lilker used to wear some shirts that I don't know, I just sort of instinctively knew I probably needn't check them out. And that was one of them. But on reflection and with what you've said, I probably should check them out, because I don't mind DRI and Suicidal and stuff like that. So, but again, it's probably very expensive, and I wouldn't drop big money on something like that.
I know they have reissued it, so I think you can pick up a reissue for fairly decent money. But it's certainly worth a listen. I understand crossover thrash isn't for everyone, and I can remember it was XL seeing Dan Lilker's T-shirt, and I remember seeing Chuck Billy out of Testament wearing a Destruction T-shirt, and those were the two. But I just checked them out just purely because they were wearing the shirts. But yeah, that's the one. I've got a couple more in here that you probably never heard of, but that's the way it goes, isn't it?
Right. What's also good, because I say if we can turn other people onto bands, and but also learn a little bit ourselves as well.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Okay,
Who's F?
That's me.
Yeah.
So this is
Just double check when Mike screams a letter out. Just double check.
We've got Jim Diamond this week.
Yes.
F. This is an F from a band I didn't really know much about in the 80s, but apart from this one album, and I'll play this album over and over again, and it's also a soundtrack to a movie which I rented from the video shop day after day after day in the summer holidays in around must be about 1987. Although I think the film itself came out in 86, and the album came out in 86, and that is Fastway and Trick or Treat. This was my soundtrack, as I say, of 1987. I've since gone back and revisited the movie. It's very, very cheesy movie. The lots of holes in the plot, as you can imagine, but it's worth revisiting. If you've not seen the film, it is actually the full film's on YouTube. I thoroughly recommend going to see it for some good, really cheesy 80s. I guess it's almost an 80s horror, but it's not scary by any means. This is Sammy Kerr, who comes back from the dead, having a record played backwards. I think it was this guy's name was like Eric Weinbender or something. I can't remember his name now. But yeah, so Fastway. Yeah. This is a typical. If you know Fastway, then this to me doesn't sound like a typical Fastway album. It's not the typical stuff you'd hear Fast Eddie Clarke play. But let's see, Ozzy Osbourne at the top there plays a preacher in the film. My fingers are all going all over the place. And then Gene Simmons plays a DJ in the movie. But I played this the other day, and I was back to 1987. Absolutely fantastic, fun album. Trick or Treat, After Midnight, Don't Stop the Fight. This is almost a 10 out of 10 album for me, and most of that is probably because of the nostalgic value I have along with it.
I'm exactly the same with that album. I can't remember the film. I must have seen half of it and lost interest in it at the time. But my cousin used to have that album on vinyl, and I used to borrow it regularly. And then I've now got the CD version of it, and it is a great album. And I've not really, for some reason, checked out the rest of the Fastway stuff, even though I love that album. So that's something I need to do. But it's just had a reissue of that one as well, hasn't it? It's just come back out again on
maybe
I think.
I don't know. But the other thing with the movie that I always thought was particularly naff was the kid in there is bullied by all the jocks, or they call them in America, don't they? And because he's into heavy metal, and he's always having his face pushed in his dinner in the canteen at lunchtime. Everybody hates heavy metal, but at the end of school prom, they have a heavy metal band playing, and it's just like, why would they have done that?
Yeah.
But, there we go. Just want to. If you watch the film from a serious point of view, it's shit. But generally speaking, I love that movie, and I will go back and watch it again and again over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen the film. I suppose it's one of those. If you grew up with it as a kid and you watch it, it's going to be that kind of nostalgic feel, and it's got that kind of almost like emotional value to it. But I've never seen it. I've heard the album. I thought it was pretty good. I've got a few of Fastway's other stuff. They're not a band that blow me away, to be honest. They're just, I mean, I can sit down, listen to an album, but it doesn't have that kind of the same connection as obviously you guys would have with it. Like there's obviously films I grew up watching that I've got connections with, and I probably love the soundtrack because it's music that I grew up in my head all the time. So it's one of those things, I think, for me.
And that's the beauty of music, isn't it? You know, the nostalgia part of it, what an album does and where it takes you. I have got no idea why I don't ever remember the film back in the day. I was very aware of sort of Nightmare on Elm Street, and the soundtrack had Dokken playing, and Shocker, which had Megadeth, covering Alice Cooper, and there was loads of those as you call them, sort of cheesy movies with good soundtracks. Even the Crow, you know, had a good soundtrack. But I've got no idea why. I've never even, before I joined the VC, I'd never heard of that album. I've seen loads of people talk about it, and pretty much everyone says, you know, even if they don't love it, they say, "Oh, it's a good album. It's definitely worth listening to." It completely passed me by. I have got no recollection of the movie. I knew of the band Fast Way, but yeah, I don't know what happened there.
It's not even a movie. It's not even a movie that has a heavy metal soundtrack. It's a heavy metal movie, Mark. Get your act together.
Yeah, just completely bizarre why that passed me by. You know, I always gravitated towards movies that had heavy metal soundtracks. You know, and that was it. But yeah, I've got no idea why that.
Do you know what my biggest disappointment with that is, though? The DVD cover, if that was the same as the album cover, that would just be on my want list right now. But that is not an awesome DVD cover.
No, and I don't remember. I mean, that wasn't the DVD cover in the 80s. I'm pretty sure it was closer to that.
Yeah.
It must have been. I
don't
remember.
A great cover. That's a great cover, isn't it?
That is. Even when I found this on Amazon, I had to sort of make sure it wasn't some sort of naff unlicensed metal compilation DVD. That's kind of what it's like. But but just everyone, just be careful about playing your records backwards, okay? I mean, stay safe out there. G.
Okay, we can't go through the A to Z of rock and metal without showing this band, and I'm going to do it. And it is Guns N' Roses.
Welcome to the jungle.
Appetite for Destruction. So, because I never kind of grew up with people that like the same music as me, I never understood when I got into the VC why this album was so divisive. I was really surprised when people were like, "Oh, it's overrated," and "Oh, if I heard that song one more time," and I can understand maybe the songs that get overplayed. I mean, "Sweet Child of Mine," I'm sure everyone's heard that a million times. But as an album, I was really surprised why this got not shit on, but that sort of way that people just had kind of like abandoned it. And I don't know if that's maybe to do with the album or maybe to do with like the band themselves, because when this was like at its peak, I mean, Guns N' Roses were basically rock gods, and it's strange to look back now to where they really went when they made Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. I'm sure a lot of people could agree that they could have made one good album out of those two. But after this, I mean, you couldn't get a big enough catapult to kickstart your career. And it just seems, obviously, drugs and drink and stuff comes into it. And obviously Axl was a bit of a dick. But it's surprising how much they had in front of them to where they actually ended up. And it really, I don't know. It was one of the first albums that I really got into. This and Slippery When Wet were really the first two hard rock albums that really kind of got me into that kind of genre. So I find it quite hard when people say that it's overrated. I think it's just an absolutely excellent album. Yes, it has got its songs that we don't have to hear again, but it's just, for me, it's phenomenal. So, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction.
Well, I can chip in on that. And you know, you've said you were surprised by how sort of divisive it was. Well, let me tell you, having been there when that did drop, it was universal. Everybody, no matter what they listened to, everybody loved that album. Everybody did. The only reason anyone's shitting on that record now is because it's 30 plus years old and they're fed up of it and they're forgetting how awesome it was in 1987. I still think it is awesome. It's one of my, I would say it's in my top 10 all-time albums, because I might get fed up with a song here and there, but I put that aside and think, who cares? put yourself back in 1987, it was ridiculous. It was just outstanding. So it's maybe just because you're a lot younger, but I see it like people have abandoned it over the years, but it didn't matter what you were into, from Bathory to White Snake back in the day. Everybody, from my experience, just worshipped that album, and I still do.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I get why people say it's overrated in the same way that people say things like Master of Puppets is overrated, Number of the Beast is overrated. I've heard it's because they're old, and the reason I think they think that is because they're such good classic albums. They've just been played and played and played, and some people have got fed up with them. I could listen to Sweet Child of Mine over and over again, no problems at all. I love the album. I mean, I've got and the remaster one as well. I love it. I mean, it takes me back to my another one that takes me back to my childhood from back in that time. And I didn't have an OG. I had it on. I taped it off somebody, and it's a 10 out of 10 album for me. I absolutely love it. Never get tired of it. Still listen to it regularly, and yeah, the perfect album for me. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, full house for this one. This for me, I can remember Welcome to the Jungle, a video for that coming up on MTV, and just everything about it, the look they had, the attitude they had, the riffs. It's not an album I've listened to in a long time, played it all the way through, but I noticed James just made a point there about forget Sweet Child of Mine. The songs like Rocket Queen and Mr. Brownstone, they're all good songs. It is, without a doubt, a 10 out of 10 album. It's as simple as that. It has to be one of the greatest debut albums. Okay. And Mike said it perfectly. When it dropped like a nuclear bomb. It was just everybody, whatever kind of music we're into that I knew anyway, just was like, hey, that's shit up. That, there was riffs. And I remember hearing Sweet Child of Mine being played on the radio, and I was proper pissed off when they cut Slash's guitar solo down as the radio edit. I was like, where's that middle bit, the mellower part of it, and if I hear any of their songs on the radio now, I'm going to listen to it all the way. It's and I think Andy said it, it gets knocked because of maybe the age it is, and the songs have just been played and played and played and played. But it's a 10 out of 10 album, simple as that. For me,
I'll tell you what else got played a lot: the Live at the Ritz video when MTV they put that out very early on in Guns N' Roses' career. The televised Live in the Ritz. Everyone recorded that and played that to death as well. They were just colossal in 1987.
Yeah, I also think. I was going to say, that they are a one album wonder. I've never got into anything else they've done.
Exactly what I was about to say then. I even bought Lies, GNR Lies after that, and I was just, what the hell's this?
That's more of
going on here? Yeah.
Now, see, I've got to admit, I was still in right up till the Illusion albums, and I got them the day they came out, and I remember watching like TV AM or something, morning television. They were even talking about that on morning television. That's how big Guns N' Roses were then. They were down on wherever Oxford Street or something in London, watching a queue of people all lining up to buy both Illusion albums. I mean, I remember that happening for that and the Joshua Tree or Rattle and Hum, something like that. I mean, you can't even begin to imagine how huge them albums were when they were out.
Yeah. And I recently found out as well that, and a bit of a sort of a silly fact, really, but on one of the songs, I don't know which one it was, but Axl Rose actually was having sex with a woman in the recording studio. They recorded the sound of the girl and dubbed it onto the song, and I never knew that.
I think it was Stephen Adler's.
I've not heard of it.
I'm sure it was Stephen Adler's girlfriend.
Really?
Well, that's why I wasn't there, but
it kind of sums up what happened with Guns N' Roses. It was like everything was that album, and it was so excess and I've never even listened to Use Your Illusion 1 or 2. I've never, I've heard the songs November Rain and Live and Let Die and that, but I've never listened to those albums. It literally is, a one and done. Everything was into that one album.
Yeah, I only heard those 2 albums recently. I picked them up on a Music Magpie, so I got them nice and cheap, but I would happily sell them. I'm probably never going to listen to them again. Like Scott said, you could probably make a good album out of it.
Yeah. As 2 albums, they're not very good. But if you took the good songs off one and the good songs off the other and put them together, it'd probably be a fantastic album. There'd be some really great tracks on those, but there's some really just mediocre ones as well.
Yeah, Dead Horse. I love that song off the Illusion album.
Coma.
There's good. There is a full album's worth, but
there definitely is. We'll move on.
Right. I've took this album out of the box.
H now, yeah, Mike.
Yeah.
Keep Mike right.
Yeah. It's a back cover. You probably won't see the cover to clear. But you're there again. That is Hailstorm, and it's the strange case of Hailstorm. There's not a lot to see there with that album cover, but these are a female-fronted modern-day rock band, and I just think Lizzie Hale is fantastic. I think the drummer is super energetic. They've got great riffs, great vocal performance, and she's very sort of passionate about the 80s stuff, and she does great, fantastic covers. They've got like 3 covers EPs out as well as numerous albums, but she really has a huge appreciation of 80s metal, Dio and Whitesnake and stuff like that. And I just think they're fantastic. And I'm not the world's biggest, like Rob and Nathan. They will actively seek out female-fronted hard rock and heavy metal bands, and there's got to be something a bit tasty about them for me. And I've got quite a few, but I'm not in them guys' leagues. But as soon as I heard what was it, Love Bites, the video for, and it's not the Def Leppard Love Bites, but that's awesome as well. But the song Love Bites, that was it for me. But just killer. Not many bad songs in their whole discography, as far as I'm concerned. There you go.
Yeah, I think I started listening to them maybe 10 years ago, when I was kind of getting into that kind of stuff. I thought, well, like you say, Lizzie Hale's got a great voice, but I kind of found that I went off it quite quickly. I kind of found it almost kind of a wee bit generic for the time. So the more I kind of started off liking them, and the more I kind of delved in, the more I kind of pulled myself back from it a little bit, because I thought it was just a bit too generic. But at the time, I really enjoyed their stuff, because their stuff was getting played quite a lot on rock radio. So you know what it's like. If you don't like a song one day, you can like it the next, because you hear it again, then you hear it again, and you hear it again. It kind of starts to seep in. So that's what it was kind of like for me. But yeah, the more I kind of delved into their catalogue, the more it just kind of pushed me away. So, and I've never really listened to them since.
I was always a bit confused, because is there not a band called Hailstorm as well as Hailstorm?
Yeah. Hailstorm are like a Scottish pirate metal band.
Yeah. I always got mixed up between the two, but I have heard Lizzie Hale. She has got a great voice, no doubt about it. But I've only ever heard the covers that she's done, and I quite like her. Yeah, I think she's obviously had quite a decent sort of musical upbringing. She knows who the real bands are and where the real songs lie, and I quite like her for that. But I've never actually heard anything by Hailstorm like original wise. But yeah, she seems. I like her. She's got a good voice. What I've heard the songs that she's done, she does have a decent voice, and I quite like her. But like I say, I've only heard the covers.
Yeah, I'm sure I checked them out a while back, and it probably would have been as a result of someone showing them on the VC. But I honestly don't remember what they sound like, and that's probably because I wasn't really that into it. So I was surprised actually when you pulled that one out, Mike, because from what I remember, I wouldn't have put you and that band together for some reason. Oh well, apart from the fact that you're like one of the hardest people to ever gauge on what you like in the world ever. I'll have to go back and try it again. Maybe I heard a cover or something, and I've not been big into covers.
There's a live version of them doing Dio. It's on YouTube, a video, and I can't remember what it is. But it's absolutely fantastic. She can just do no wrong for me with that voice. But I mean, they've got a poppy element to them. And what they seem to have done is a bit like Shinedown. The last Hailstorm album is similar to the last Shinedown album. They go in two directions. They go way, way more poppy than they've ever been. And they also go way, way heavier than they've ever been, all on the same album. So it's, I love both of them bands, but I realised, there's like the holy trinity for me of concert tickets that I never managed to get to because of my mother's funeral. But there was Hailstorm, Shinedown, and Blackstone Cherry, and they're three bands that just don't get any VC love whatsoever, that I think are the best three bands in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, see, that's kind of group I would lump them in with, like the kind of 2000s hard rock and metal. Like you said, I would kind of like Blackstone Cherry and all those kind of bands, Shinedown. But yeah, I mean that just doesn't get me. That doesn't click with me really. I mean, I could maybe take a song here or there, but as a package, as an album, I couldn't really click with it.
Yeah, I'd say I've actually gone from intrigued by your original description of Hailstorm to the comparison with the likes of Shinedown and Blackstone Cherry. Took me right off.
Yeah, I don't think you would like them. You're two goblins and girls for that.
I just supported Maiden on the Book of Souls tour certainly in the UK. But they were right, Mike. They just didn't grip me enough to go any deeper.
I can't help it.
Shall we move on?
Mark G, with an I, and this is chalk and cheese from Hailstorm. We go to.
I knew you were going to show that.
The Mighty Immolation, New York death metal. It's funny because death metal now, people talk about brutal death metal bands, and
brutal.
I think nowadays brutal death metal means something different to what it did in the early 90s. There's like a style of music called slam, and I always think of brutal death metal nowadays is kind of like slam. It's just too relentless. There's no real riffs in there. Yeah, brutal, exactly. This is a 91 release on the Road Racer Records. I was lucky enough to see these guys supporting Massacre and Morgoth in Manchester, and yeah, they are heavy. There's no doubt about it, but there's just so many good riffs in this album. They've got numerous albums out, but for me, this is like the one that you need. It's their debut album, and if you was getting into death metal, I certainly wouldn't say listen to this as one of your gateway albums because it is heavy. There's no doubt about it. but really good guitar sound, deep gruff vocals, but just full of riffs. It just goes from good riff to good riff to good riff. There's no let up. And like I say, early 90s death metal is kind of a bit different to modern day death metal. I think sometimes modern day death metal, there's gaps in there. There's little moments that kind of let you breathe. They call them breakdowns or whatever it is. But this is, it's essential. If you're on the death metal path, you've got to listen to this. Immolation, Dawn of Possession.
I'm out.
Andy will be quick, I'm quite sure.
Yeah, it's my poor Ian, not forgive me for. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mark. I know you've got a passion for this stuff. Your passion clearly comes through, but I'm afraid I just can't appreciate it. Moving on.
Yeah.
I can't figure out which way it is either. He's going to.
So, who would you compare them to?
Good question. Yeah, they're nothing like Obituary. They're nothing like that Floridian sort of death metal sound. Floridian death metal always had an element that could let someone who was like a thrasher kind of in. It broke you in gently. This is like the next step up from Floridian death metal. And there wasn't a lot of bands coming from New York that I seem to remember at the time. It tended to be Florida in the USA or Stockholm in Sweden. So for these guys come along, there's a few other bands out there. More to Skuld rings comes to mind a little bit, but it's heavy, it's relentless. It's not full of blast beats like a lot of modern death metal is, but it's fast, yeah, and it'll punish you if you're not into it. I know for a fact, Andy, it would just drive Andy mental. There's no doubt about it. But for the likes of you, Scott, you're kind of dipping your toe in there. If you're listening to the likes of Obituary and Pestilence and bands like that, this is another step up. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But it's right up there with the best for me. Great album.
It's expensive, and I keep getting outbid on it. That's what it is. But what you haven't mentioned as well is
that's why Mike doesn't like it.
Yeah, it's shit because I haven't got it.
Oh, no, I don't like that one.
I tell you what, you didn't mention though. The vocals are genuinely scary. The vocals are very, very creepy, and it makes me feel claustrophobic when I listen to it. It suffocates you. It's horrible, but I love it. But it's all them things as well. It's horrible. It's not pleasant. You've got to have your wits about you. You can't, like you say, it's not that entry level death metal stuff like Obituary and Death. Still don't qualify as death metal to me. Death are just metal, but that is definitely another league, in the same league as like Cannibal Corpse and Suffocation and stuff like that. And
Perfect Suffocation. I was just about to say they're another New York band, and Suffocation are probably more heard of than Immolation, and it is like that. It is relentless.
It's more
Bev,
advanced.
yeah, Bev certainly wouldn't like it either. That's for sure.
No, it is. It's you've got to be sort of you've got to have digested a few of the lesser mortals and be like hungry for, right, what's the next thing to kick my ass type of thing, and creepy fuck vocals. But if you get a second copy, you'll have to send me it.
Yeah, I will do.
What's next?
Right, where are we on now?
Jay.
Okay, well, that was an easy choice for me. No, I'm kidding. It's funny when you have to kind of spend a bit of money to get a laugh, isn't it? But, right.
Brilliant.
So this next one, we were talking about, albums before that they're not really, whether they're heavy metal or not. Now, this is a heavy metal album, but does anyone know who this is? Hold on, let me big myself up. Anyone know who this is?
Alice Cooper.
Not for a J, Mike. but this one, this is Jack Starr, and that looks like it should probably be in the blues rock section.
Yeah,
This is a great heavy metal album. Now, Jack Starr was in Virgin Steel, main guitarist in there. So this is from '84. This is a bit of a super group. I mean, this is to me, this is really good heavy metal. It's got obviously he's the main guitarist on there, so there's a lot of sort of guitar wankery going on. But it's one album I would probably have flicked straight past had it not been on Music for Nations. So that's why I was aware of it. Otherwise, I would never have looked at that. If I was on Discogs or in a shop, I would have probably flicked straight through it. I wouldn't have made the association of Jack Starr and Virgin Steel at the time. Bit of a super group though. It's got who's vocals, Rhett Forrester with Riot, Carl Kennedy of the Rods. That was the guy that produced the first Anthrax album, wasn't it? Carl Kennedy.
Yeah, that name was yeah.
And Gary Bordenaro, also of the Rods, and Gary Driscoll, Rainbow, was the drummer. But this album is definitely worth checking out. So it's pretty heavy in places, and it's got some really good. If you're into like things like guitar solos, not too over the top, ones that are in keeping with the music and the songs that it's playing along with, and with Rhett Forrester on vocals as well. It's kind of got that sort of really gritty hard rap metal sound to it. So don't flick by it, or if you see it in the blues section, just pick it up because it's a metal album all the way.
Can we pretend you're Judas Priest?
What's that?
What?
Can we just pretend you showed Judas Priest?
No.
I don't know. I only know what you've just told me.
Well, now you've been educated. You can go and check him out.
Is Jack Starr the name of the band, or is that the actual guitarist? Is that his name, Jack Starr?
That's his name, yeah. Now he also had a I think after this, there was a Jack Starr's Burning Star was the band that he had after.
Victory. I'm just going to get a.
I have been meaning to check out Virgin Steel because I've seen you on your videos, Andy, talk about Virgin Steel, and they are on my sort of list of bands to check out. And I think I've seen you show that one as well before.
Yeah.
And what intrigues me about that is, are the band sat in a DeLorean on the picture on the back? Because that sells it to me straight away.
I hope so.
I'm not a car person. I know what a DeLorean looks like, but I don't know if that's a DeLorean.
Oh, no.
Actually, a DeLorean.
I was thinking like a Back to the Future DeLorean, you know.
Well, you probably hate it then if it's the wrong car.
Yeah. No, I'm not into that, you know. It sounds interesting, and it's certainly got Rhett vocalist. He's got a great voice, hasn't he? Rhett the vocalist, yeah, he's fabulous. Where is he from? Riot, is that right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a super group. I'll certainly check it out.
So it's definitely...
if anything, it was an education, because I hate these covers that have nothing to do with heavy metal, because you would just flick past it. and somebody could go, "Oh, it's a great album," and who knew? Because there was just a guy standing there with a guitar. So,
and not looking particularly metal. He's got a Kerrang.
Well, exactly. I can't remember what album it was. In fact, it was the Sea Hags. If you were flipping through a bin and you saw the Sea Hags, you would never think that was like a hair metal album. You would flick straight past it. So, I mean, the first thing you see is going to be the cover. So sell it with the cover.
Yeah, Andy said it looks like a blues album, doesn't it? There's no doubt about it. You'd think that was like John Lee Hooker or Stevie Ray Vaughan or any of these lot.
Yeah.
But definitely check him out.
Okay. We're definitely on K.
Definitely on K.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, by the way, sorry, if anyone wants to buy a slightly used copy of the Beast Diamond,
you can't sell that. You've just got to send that to Mike as
VLT.
Mike's all over it.
My J-Rack's full.
Okay.
Yeah.
The right button.
I am going with Kiss and Crazy Nights. So this is my kind of go-to period for Kiss. And I know some of those Kiss fans out there will be screaming, but I'm one of those people who just doesn't get early Kiss. When it comes to albums like Love Gun and Destroyer, put those two together and you maybe get a good album. But those albums alone just do not do it for me. When it gets to this, it's just got a bit more oomph to it, a bit more fun, better riffs. Those kind of the 80s albums like Creatures of the Night, Lick It Up, Crazy Nights, those are the kind of albums that I go to. This is the kind of era. And it's just got some absolutely awesome songs. Obviously, everyone knows Crazy Nights. Completely underrated song from Kiss is I'll Fight Hell to Hold You. That is a great song. My Way, Reason to Live, Turn on the Night. It's just got some cracking hard rock songs on it. And I know Kiss obviously get their popularity from the 70s and the big gimmick with the face, and like they're really different for the time. But musically, I just can't click with early Kiss. This is my Kiss up till about Revenge. So yeah, but awesome. This just kind of falls into that kind of 80s rock star big event show with fireworks going off. That's the kind of stuff I like. So a bit over the top, but just great stuff to listen to. So that's Kiss and Crazy Nights.
Has that got Hell or High Water on it, Scott? I haven't got my.
I think it does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a class song as well. I'm like you. I don't get the big sort of love for the 70s Kiss. I like the 70s Kiss stuff. The first album's probably the strongest, and the rest are half and half. But the 80s output for me is where it's at as well. Like you say, up to Revenge. I think that's probably an age thing. Me and you both, even me this time as well, is probably too young to appreciate the early stuff. But that Crazy Nights album, massively underrated. But underrated, I don't know, it is underrated. But then when you put it up against another 87 album that you showed with Appetite for Destruction, it's not even playing the same sport, is it? But it's still got some absolute bangers on it. And I think it was probably bigger in the UK than it was in America, that album, because they would have done it in that year, I think, and there were them videos were constantly on television for Turn on the Night and Crazy Nights. So I think that album done better in the UK than it did in America.
Yeah, it was. Go on, Andy.
No, you go on.
No.
Would somebody go on?
I will. I'll go on. A gateway album. for me. That it really was. Crazy Nights. The age. What year is it? 86, 87? 87. Yeah. So 15 years old. It was a gateway album. Simple as that. I absolutely loved it. And I'm exactly the same as you guys. I don't get the whole early Kiss thing. I think early Kiss is like it's a young American lad thing. I don't think they transitioned over to the UK at all. I think Crazy Nights for me was like that was the point where Kiss seemed to break into the UK. Maybe America were a bit bored of them. I don't know. They seemed to break England, and they were massive. That album was a massive album. They were all over MTV, Top of the Pops, everything. And yeah, some great songs on it, you know, as well as Crazy Nights, Reasons to Live. I always loved that song. But yeah, for me, I'm not a huge Kiss fan. The singer out of Enchantment, he was a big fan of Kiss after that, after listening to Crazy Nights. And he went back and he did everything. He went back into, what's that album with the door on the front? Is it The Elder, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He went unmasked all the more obscure albums. I did Crazy Nights, and that was it. I didn't even go anywhere further past that. Hot in the Shade or any of those. It was just Crazy Nights. And I still love it to this day because it's what we were talking about earlier about music being nostalgic for it. It just transports me to my 15-year-old self and being on that journey into metal, you know, from rock to metal. But yeah, whether you call it underrated or not, for me, in my opinion, it's an absolute classic album.
I have to say,
spoil everything.
Bev has summed it up better than I could have. Crazy Nights was on a Now compilation.
A pop album.
It's
pop compilation.
It's not even rock if it's on a Now album. Now, all right, that sounds like I'm going to be really detrimental. I've never heard the album. I do have the 12-inch picture disc of Crazy Nights, so I must have kind of liked it to have bought that at the time, but it didn't make me want to go and pick up the album. Kiss passed me by. I remember going into HMV in Cardiff as a kid, thinking like, "Oh, everybody loves Kiss. I'm going to look at what Kiss albums they've got." And they had about 20 albums out by the mid '80s, and I was just daunted. I didn't know where to start, and that kind of put me off even more. So I don't mind the looking back to it. I don't mind like the Crazy Nights era, and I'd probably, if I saw that album cheap, I'd probably pick it and give it a listen just for nostalgic purposes. But they've never done a lot for me. I've got the Alive 1 and 2 because I found them cheap in the record shop recently, and I've got the Elder, which I actually quite like, which is probably quite telling because everybody hates that album, Kiss, but I don't mind it. But they'll never be a band that I will particularly seek out. Sorry.
Sick.
Right.
So where do we go from here?
When I went to school, I've only got this with this band, so it's kind of talking about the band, not the album.
Like Jim Diamond last time.
Yeah, this is Led Zeppelin. This is a best of with DVD, and I bought this because the legendary DVD footage. You know where all the people are sat on the floor, all around them, and they're playing to about 40 or 50 people who were just sat there, cross-legged on the floor. Well, I bought it really for that because I remembered that as a kid being aired on BBC. And it's got the songs that I can remember, but on the whole, I can't stand these guys. I like the songs on there that they've chose for that best of, and obviously the DVD serves a purpose. That's why I kept that, but that is me done with Led Zeppelin. And what I don't like is how they go into this jam mode all the time. It's all extended performances of things while they play live, and I also hate Jimmy Page and Robert Plant exchanging these sort of type of shit, you know. You live for that shit, Andy.
Are we back to the Guns N' Roses album then?
Yeah. Self-indulgent wankers. Over to you three.
I've got
Over to you three self-indulgent wankers.
I've just got a quick subs update. We've lost 15 subs after that.
I'm sorry.
So
well, my first introduction to Led Zeppelin would have been Top of the Pops. The theme tune to Top of the Pop was that Whole Lot of Love. That's when I first heard Led Zeppelin. Obviously, I was never around to see them in their glory or anything like that. The next time I heard Led Zeppelin, and it's to this day still a song that I absolutely love. We watched a film in I think it was English or media studies or something like that at school, and it was, what's it called now? One Day in September, and that was the opening song to that. It was about the Israeli Olympic team and how they got held hostage and stuff. But that was the opening song, and I remember sitting in class thinking, "Oh my god, that's fucking amazing!" But I didn't know who it was, so it must have been a couple of years later that I found it was Led Zeppelin. Then I kind of went back to the other songs, and I thought, "What the fuck is this?" Didn't like it, but it's weird because over the last couple of years, I've really started to actually like them. Like I never got Stairway to Heaven. I didn't think it was that good a song. I never kind of got these kind of songs, but now I can actually appreciate it for what it is. And I don't know if you've seen it, but the version of Heart doing it at it's on YouTube. Heart did it at like this kind of like ceremony for Led Zeppelin where they were getting awarded with something, and it's absolutely awesome. They do this version of Stairway to Heaven. It was amazing. Has Jason Bonham on drums, and then I heard it a lot on the radio. The more I listen to like rock radio and stuff, and every time I hear a song now, I'm starting to really get into Led Zeppelin for some reason. So I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan, but I do understand why they are popular.
I completely understand why they were massive. I just never got into them. I wouldn't even say I don't hate them at all. I'm ambivalent when it comes to them. I too. That is the only Led Zeppelin album I own. Now I've always kind of said when I do my update videos and things, everything I show, I always listen to at least twice to make sure that, you know, if I'm going to say I don't like something, I've at least given it a couple of attempts. I've not managed to listen to that once all the way through without getting a bit bored and wanted to listen to something else. So I just think appreciate what they did for the world of music, but they'll never be a band that I will sort of go to and listen to.
I think Led Zeppelin, for me, they really do sort of divide opinion. To the point, you know, I completely can understand where Mike comes from, talking about that self-indulgent, the jamming whole thing. But excuse me, for me as a guitarist and musician, you can kind of completely understand when you're in a band with 4 musicians who are that good. I can understand them just jamming. I'm surprised their albums aren't just big 4-hour fucking jams. Do you know what I mean? Because they were that good on a personal level, each of them. John Bonham, yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan. I can remember buying 1987 by Whitesnake and taking it home and playing Still of the Night. First song came in, and my dad came upstairs to my room and he went, "What's that you're listening to?" And I was like, "It's Whitesnake." He went, "Come downstairs, son, and listen to this." And he put on Led Zeppelin for me, and it was kind of like, I thought, wow, yeah, I can kind of see where Whitesnake, that song, was coming from. So I kind of then delved into a little bit of Led Zeppelin and kind of got into them. I don't really listen to them as much nowadays, but a hugely influential band, there's no doubt about it. And just as Peter said that, I was just about to say Dark Angel do a great cover version of The Immigrant Song. In fact, it was Dark Angel's version of The Immigrant Song I heard before Led Zeppelin's The Immigrant Song. But yeah, it's I do understand why they divide opinion. I think, metal fans like them, rock fans like them, blues fans like them, and then when you've got songs as momentous as Stairway to Heaven and songs like that, people would walk down the aisle to that song, wouldn't they? It's the huge tunes. But yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with them. I quite like them. They've been part of my life since I was a young kid. And like I say, being a musician, all four of them were just great. A bit like Cream. I was always a big fan of Cream as well because I just thought all the three musicians were just brilliant. And you kind of look at it on another level, maybe as a guitar player or a drummer. I mean, you play drums, Mike. What do you think of John Bonham?
Oh yeah, it's tremendous. It makes an absolutely nothing kit sound like something fantastic, and I appreciate that they're all fantastic musicians. I think there's I think you can sort of use your skills within the confinements of a song without going over the top. I don't like live Rainbow stuff because of the same thing where the Richie Blackmore's going 10 to the dozen for 25 minutes. Richie Blackmore's fantastic, but we already know that without you having to do that. And
I get that.
And I'm very much of the, even though I can play instruments, I'm not somebody that you would typically. I wouldn't know if one drummer was playing the drums against another one or a guitar player against another at all. I don't give a shit about that. I'm only interested in the band or the song or the album as a whole. I don't notice individual skills, to be quite honest.
I'm with you on that. And the whole thing about I mean, it's funny you mentioned Rainbow there. I mean, you start off by mentioning with Led Zeppelin and people kind of was it Robert Plant and Jimmy Page playing off each other. That's what I could never get my head around with Deep Purple, the whole Blackmore and John Lord dueling organs and guitars. It was just
dueling organs.
Organ. And, I just like to me, just like let Blackmore play. He's a guitarist. It's cool. Turn your organ off.
Yeah. Excuse me.
What's next?
Am I right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Little change of pace for Mark G with a C. This is a band from Germany, and I'm fairly new to these. And if you've seen my videos and the way I talk about, I love album artwork. It entices me in. I see a good album cover, and I think, do you know what? I'm going to check them out. And this was purely one of them. And this is a band. Hey, Brendan Von Doom. This is a band from Germany, Metal Inquisitor. I had never heard of them before until I saw this. And I think I bought this online. I think it was like £3.33 or something. It's a fabulous new wave of traditional heavy metal. I know for a fact, especially for Andy, if you hear this, you will instantly love it. and you're probably going to spend some money on these CDs or albums. If you like Saxon, if you like Iron Maiden, it's just fabulous. I think this is their third album, so I don't know what the first two are like. I don't know why the singers dress like Dennis the Menace, which I always found a bit odd. But if you can see there, again, and I don't know why this band are more widely known. All I can say, vocally, as mad as it sounds, one of the songs reminds me a little bit of Sanctuary and Warrell Dane's voice. This guy's got nowhere near as good a voice as Warrell Dane, but it has got leanings towards it. They've also got a little bit of a little tinge of AC/DC in there. I know it sounds quite confusing, that, doesn't it? But if you've never heard of them, and I can't imagine many of you will have heard of these, because I hadn't heard of them until about 6 months ago. Check them out. They're just, it's Saxon, Iron Maiden, just great traditional heavy metal, and played really well. And I know Andy introduced me to a band, a Scottish band. Is it Midnight Force? The vocalist kind of reminds me of that. It's kind of like, he sounds like he's going to be a little bit out of key, but he never quite does. It's just fabulous. Check them out, Metal Inquisitor, and this album is Unconditional Absolution. I think they've got about 4 or 5 albums out.
So there's two things there that put me off that album.
AC/DC.
AC/DC and new wave of traditional heavy metal. Because it's one of those things I cannot click with completely. There's only some bands that I can take from new wave anything, new wave thrash, new wave hair metal, new wave traditional heavy metal. There's only so many bands that I can kind of pick out and say, that's doing something a little bit different. That's doing something that we've maybe not heard before. Because I find a lot of these bands, although they kind of call themselves new wave of traditional heavy metal, they don't really sound, although I know it's new wave, but they are taking these influences from Iron Maiden, Saxon, and Judas Priest, but they're almost just doing their own thing anyway. So, I mean, bands like, I've said this before, Skullfist I don't mind, although their last album was pretty poor. White Wizard are one of the bands that kind of stand out for me because they just do sound different. They've got their own their own sound. The AC/DC thing, because I get pelters for not liking AC/DC, but there's something that I don't mind some of the Bon Scott stuff, but I mean the majority of it I can't stand. It just doesn't do anything for me.
What is that all about?
Let's disgust about AC/DC.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I've been doing disgust wrong for years.
It's just one of those bands I just cannot. I just do not click with. I think I can take Razor's Edge isn't a bad album, and Flick of the Switch is quite good, and I like what's the debut, High Voltage.
Yeah,
that's quite good.
Well, you've just got off the hook then, because that you've named some good ones. So yeah, well, I'll weigh in on this then. When it comes to I didn't even jump on the new wave of British heavy metal, never mind the traditional heavy metal one. Iron Maiden, Judas Priest and Saxon are so far out in front for me, above all them other type of bands. I just don't think there's any point in me listening to any others like Diamond Head, or I used to have the Angel Witch album and I was like, oh yeah, the actual song Angel Witch is good, but after that I wasn't interested. And all those type of bands, and then these bands that have done this traditional style now, all I just keep thinking is Yeah, I just want Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or Saxon. I just think those three bands are so far ahead. They've like, that's all I need in that genre of music. If them three don't do it, it's not worth bothering with as far as that type of style goes. And that's I can't get past that, I'm afraid.
So you've condensed the whole of the new wave of British heavy metal movement just into like 2 or 3 bands.
Exactly.
Well,
really, I can't help it.
You've pissed them off, Mike.
I
Oh, hey.
So this is Doomsday at the I think it's the HOA. I've no idea where that is.
Is that their debut?
No, this is a live album. This is all I have. I would love to get some more stuff. And the fact that you found a one of their albums for £3 on Music Magpie makes me cry, because if you look on somewhere like Amazon or eBay, they go for a shitload of money. Really hard to get their releases. I think they're a German band, because this is some of the audience interaction. They're talking in German on it, but this is a really
they are German, I believe. Yeah,
I wouldn't necessarily have thought AC/DC, but yeah, I mean,
I don't think it's. Please don't get me wrong. It's not.
It's not worship.
There's just every now and again. There's just a little element of maybe it's that sort of drum pattern and the riff. I mean, it's only a smidgens, you know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
But there's a lot of
song, you know.
And you can tell that they've been heavily influenced by the classic bands that Mike is a purist for. But I like it when people mix up those different styles of different bands, and whereas the whole style of music perhaps isn't new. It's I'd rather listen to that than the other modern bands that are around at the moment. So yeah, I'd love to get some more Metal Inquisitor. Really, really good band. Really good. And that live album, Mark, I would recommend that. It actually sounds like it's recorded by. It's an official album, as far as I can tell. It's not a bootleg, but it's kind of got that bootleg quality where you can kind of hear people in the audience shouting as though they're right next to the person who's recording it. But I was not expected to see that. That's a great I think, Mark. Well done, sir.
Yeah, it's like I say, brand new to me, and I'm like, I understand what Mike says about that, but I'm all for, you know. And Scott mentioned it before. He kind of likes bands to maybe be doing it, but with something different. I'm quite happy sometimes to listen to bands that are just complete worship bands of other bands, and I enjoy that. You know, some bands I'm looking for something different from. Other bands, I'm just there for the ride, and if they sound like someone else, I'm cool with that. You know. That's just me personally, you know, and I think, you know, me listening to a lot of the Swedish death metal, like HM2, Guitar Tone. There's so many bands out there doing that. You could all say they sound the same because of that guitar sound. I'm all right with that. I'm quite cool with it. I'm not looking for people to reinvent the wheel. Just if they're playing it and they sound like they're having a good time and the songs kind of grab me, I'm having some of it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
No, I mean, I get that. I mean, if I found a band that sounded exactly like Iron Maiden, I'd be all over it.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of thing that they say they're kind of taking these influences, but they don't really. And just, although I think the worst thing for me is every band from that kind of new wave of just not heavy metal. I say every band, not every band, but they kind of have this kind of same template that they use. So they all kind of, it's like the same kind of drum beats, the same guitar riffs, the same kind of high-pitched vocals. You know, there's not enough kind of like variety in their music and in their vocals for me. When you look at Maiden, they've got a lot of things going on. But when you look at these kind of new wave bands, they all kind of fit this same template. So I think that's what I was trying to get at.
Scott, if you want a band that sounds like Maiden worship, now I like a lot of the new wave traditional heavy metal bands, but I actually don't like it when they actually, I don't like it as much when they actually sound like another band. So this band, Monument,
Oh, yeah.
this is Maiden worship dialed up. You also listen to a song thinking, what Maiden song is that from? Rather than it being a band that sounds like Maiden, they are a band that almost sounds too much like Maiden. Now it's a listenable album, and I like it, but if you like a band that sounds too much like Iron Maiden, then I recommend Monument.
I'm all over it.
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
That house moving sound earlier. If I got all my CDs in big boxes, I should have gone on mute. And I was like scraping around trying to find that Led Zeppelin CD. So I've learned my lesson. All right, are we going to move on?
Yes.
Right. So my N is you'll be delighted to hear, Scott and Mike. It's a new wave of traditional heavy metal band.
Yay!
But it is as far as I'm concerned, one of the best. I mean, you mentioned things like White Wizard. This to me this band is better than White Wizard, and I like White Wizard. That's Night Demon, and this is their second album, Darkness Remains. And the reason I chose this one is I picked this album up, which I actually signed on the first time that Night Demon played in the UK. Their first ever gig, as far as I can tell, was in Edinburgh. So they came up and they played at Bannerman's, and it's a small venue up here in Edinburgh. It was back in November 2017, and it was a Monday night, and there was no one there. There was me and about 10 people, but they put on an absolutely fantastic show. They've got a few props and things that they use, and somebody dresses up with this guy walking around with the chalice and whatever. They just did it all, and there was about 5 to 10 of us in the audience. And I got chatting to Jarvis Leatherby, the bass player, after, and he's such a great guy. I tried to buy both albums on the night, this one and the first one, but they wouldn't do me a deal, and I kind of get that because they probably made so little on the ticket sales that they were going to compromise on the merch. But actually, Jarvis Leatherby is the guy. I think he's the guy behind the resurrection of Sirith Ungol as well. Bass player there. So I met them again at Glasgow when they played last year. They supported Sacred Reich and absolutely blew Sacred Reich off the stage. Sacred Reich to me are a band they're trying to cash in on the resurgence of 80s thrash metal. I didn't get that their heart was really in it. They're just kind of, we made a couple of goodish albums 30 years ago, and people are all up for that. We're going to go and make a little bit of a cash in, and but Night Demon absolutely superb that night. And this is one of the bands that again I would have seen in Edinburgh with Seven Sisters, another new wave of traditional heavy metal band that I love supporting them. And that's my biggest casualty of the whole COVID thing, is missing Night Demon playing with Seven Sisters. So highlights on this album for me, I mean the whole album is it's a 10 out of 10 album. But this song here, Maiden Hell, if you look at the lyrics of that, the whole song is made up of each line has a different Iron Maiden song, and they've kind of put it together. The song itself doesn't sound like an Iron Maiden song at all, but the lyrical content is, I say, all these songs put together to make a song, and it kind of makes sense as well, which I think is particularly good and quite clever. But if you're on the fence about new wave of traditional heavy metal stuff, Night Demon I think offers something a little bit different, a little bit new, and they are absolutely fantastic live. In fact, when they come up here again, if they rearrange that gig, Scott, I'm going to drag you along because you got to see them, because they're brilliant.
Are they the band that've got one of their albums as a guy standing with an axe or something like over a bed or something like that?
Yes,
I've listened to that album. I wasn't a fan of that.
Oh man,
So I was when you said Night Demon, I was like, I'm sure that's the one when the guy's standing over with an axe. And I tried it, I really did, but it just didn't click.
Well, fair enough.
but I'll go anyway.
You're wrong, but it's fair enough.
That's
I
the only
need
thing.
I need that.
Will it go which way? I pass it you that way.
No, I went the wrong way.
Funnily enough, I picked this up from the same place as that Metal Inquisitor, and you don't want to know how much I paid for it, then, Andy. I'm quite sure. Excuse me, but yeah, I'm a big fan.
I want it on vinyl. I've got the others on vinyl. I need it. I got to have the
disc. I'd like to pick up some more of their stuff. I know Bev. I think Bev's a big fan of these as well. But yeah, these guys for a 3-piece, they are balls out. I have to say they're very good. But this is my only the only thing I can talk about. I've only heard this live, and same as you, I was due to go and see them in Manchester with Seven Sisters supporting them, and it got cancelled. So hopefully that gets rearranged. But yeah, Shadow Kingdom Records. This was released on. They always put out some good traditional heavy metal bands. I'm a big fan. Don't listen to Scott.
I don't ever.
True.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, that picture that's on the cover of that album, that actually catches them perfectly live. I mean, look at. I mean, there's the sweat, the guitarist. Considering they're a 3-piece, they're really, really ballsy, heavy, rich sound. You got Omand, the guitarist there. He's all over it. Jarvis Leatherby, singer and bass player, and there's a not Dusty Springfield. That's it. He's an absolute beast on the drums.
I'll go back to it then. I'll give it another go.
Good on you, Scott.
I'm sure I will have tried them when I first seen them, mentioned in the VC, but I can't remember anything about them at all. And I know you've seen them a few times, and you're a big fan of them, Andy, and stuff. But I just kind of, when you sort of hold something up and say it's another traditional wave of heavy metal that you've got off Bandcamp, I go, oh, he'll be talking about something else shortly.
Fair enough.
The wee tap.
1.25 times.
Yeah, do that.
But the only thing I can weigh in on is when you did mention about Sacred Reich cashing in 30 years later. They are not genuine guys. Fuck them. Move on.
Move on.
Okay.
Oh, we're on now. Quick.
Oh, who's next? Overkill.
Overkill and Horoscope. So this was really my kind of introduction to Overkill. I know, I mean, you guys were maybe different for you guys because you were kind of growing up at this time and stuff. When I was at school, it was all Metallica, it was Anthrax, Megadeth, it was all other bands that were coming out, and I never knew anybody who liked Overkill. So when I discovered Overkill, I was like, oh, why does nobody talk about these guys? Because I think because of the way the Big Four is, you kind of get forced into the Big Four first. But when I discovered Overkill, I just thought, wow, this is what Metallica should have been doing in 1990 or 1991. And I put this on, and it's just an absolute blinder from start to finish. Everyone, it's just a really tight album, and they're just one of those bands that I've said this before about bands. I went to see them. Obviously, we went to see them in Glasgow, and although I liked them at that point, it just elevates you. And then, like after I saw them live, I was Overkill mad. I need to grab all their stuff. But as you know, their studio albums are extensive. I mean, I think I've got like something like 19 studio albums. I don't think they've gone 3 years without putting an album out since like 1985. So they're just one of those bands that they've just really grind it out, especially 80s, going into the 90s, all the way through the 90s. Are kind of like Annihilator or Testament. They don't try and change to try and fit in with the 90s stuff. They just grind it out and grind it out. And now everyone's going back to these albums thinking, we missed these albums in the 90s when Overkill were still the same. But like I said, this was my kind of introduction. This was the album that everyone kind of was talking about. And when I finally heard it, I was just like, I was all about Overkill. It's trying to pick up their stuff on vinyl going backwards is a nightmare. But yeah, just a phenomenal album. So that is Overkill and Horoscope, 1990, I think that was.
Who wants to jump in?
I actually bought that on the way delivering a bathroom suite in Newton Stewart when it hadn't been out long. And I called in this little shop in Carlisle and picked it up on cassette. And I had it on in the van, and I don't know whether it was because the van wasn't very good quality audio and whatever, but it put me off the album for 30 years or whatever. And then recently I went back and thought, what was I doing? It's fantastic. Absolutely, awesome. They don't really have any bad album that I've heard anyway.
No, I'd agree.
Yeah,
I think it's because...
band.
Oh, sorry, Mark.
No, it's all right. Go on, carry on.
No, I was just going to say it's because they never really changed their sound. So you got like Metallica, who kind of changed their sound in the 90s and went forward, and then they kind of like fell by the wayside. But Overkill just kept with that same kind of template that they knew they were good at. They just kept doing what they were doing, and that's why I think they're so consistent through their whole discography.
Yeah, it's they're a great band. I talk about this a lot, about like the sort of journey I was on, but Horoscope was the sort of last Overkill album I kind of bought back in the day. I think was it I Hear Black was one after that, and they'd slowed down the sound a bit, but because I was on another journey, Horoscope was the last sort of album I bought, and then I didn't really listen to them again until Ironbound. Is that what it's called? Yeah. But I've since kind of revisited and realised that they are a great band. Taken Over by Overkill was one of my favourite thrash albums back. I'll never forget hearing when In Union We Stand, that song. Bought Under the Influence album and just played that fucker to death just all the time. Had the t-shirt, and back in the day, any band that was going to put an album out called that album cover, I was like, these guys rule, And I had that on a t-shirt as well, and I wore it on many occasions when I probably shouldn't have worn it, but I didn't care. But Horoscope. I've said this before in videos. I was always a little bit pissed off with Overkill when Bobby Gustafson left. I just thought as a 4-piece, they were great, and then when they got 2 guitarists, I wasn't quite sure. But they certainly changed my mind because Horoscope's great album, great band, love them.
Has that got Corner on it? Has that album got Corner on it to start it off?
Oh yeah, it has.
Yeah. That's a tremendous song, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. It just gets you from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice Day for a Funeral. What a tune that is. Great band.
Yeah, I was. You're talking there, Scott, about us guys probably into it at the time. Overkill completely passed me by. I was well into my thrash in the 80s, in the late 80s, but I only in the last few years have I really got into Overkill, and I have still not heard Horoscope. How about that for shocking revelation? but that's the reaction I was after, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah.
But it's one ideally I would want to pick up on vinyl because it's 8 mil, but it's one that I will happily pick up on CD. I just haven't got around to it yet. But so consistent throughout. I mean, that gig that Scott, Mike, and I went to with Flotsam and Destruction was. They were awesome. I was like there going like, yeah, my favorite band ever, because they performed on the night and they were absolutely superb. And I know if I could find that album, I would pick it up. I probably need to. It's probably actually not that hard to find on CD unless you guys tell me otherwise. I'm sure there must be reissues of it.
Yeah, it's easy on CD, but vinyl's hideous to try and get hold of it for a decent price.
But also, I've picked up, considering we've been really got into them and started picking up stuff over the last couple of years, and considering the size of their collection, I kind of try to enjoy what I've got and not get everything straight away and be overwhelmed by it. So I'm missing a few of the classic ones from the 80s, I have to say. But things like I Hear Black, I enjoy that one, and WFO as well. Around the time when they were probably at their least popular, I think they're great albums. Really like them.
Yeah, I actually grabbed Horoscope at the Record Shack for about £8, so it wasn't too bad. I saw it and I went, "That's coming with me." I was like, the T-shirt, get your eyes off my record. Just in case somebody tried to steal it off me.
You'd have still grabbed it at 16 quid at that price.
Easy.
Like,
Yeah.
It's like when I pulled it out and I saw the logo, I was like, no way. I was like, look over my shoulder. I was like,
yeah. The guy in that shop, and that was a great shop. Unfortunately, he died and the shop shut down. It's a tragic story. He wasn't a metalhead, so you could get some decent.
Yeah, you got some awesome bargains in there.
Prices.
Wow.
It was
And
just
Liam saying he's been seen 3 times. It's one of the only bands that I would have classed as like a favourite band of mine that I've never seen. I've never seen them live. I don't know why I've missed out on them so many times, but yeah, it's I need to see them. Simple as that.
Oh, they were brilliant. And considering their age, I mean, and what they're playing, they are relentless through their whole set.
Bobby Blitz has been through it as well, hasn't he? Like a few years back, you know.
I think he might actually be embalmed already, so he's probably going to be.
Yeah.
Life.
He looked a wee bit that way.
he had a stroke or a heart attack or something on stage in Germany.
That's right. Yeah.
He's unbelievable, and he's a real funny guy. He's the funniest fella in metal. Just listening to an interview, he's just entertainment enough. Just how he talks, and he talks exactly how he sings.
He does. You're dead right. Yeah, he does. I like him. They're a great band. Great band.
Right, let's move on.
P. Who's going
for a P? For a
Mike's actually going for a P.
Hang on, no, I'm here. Right. I'm going to get a bit heavier than Overkill.
Oh, calm down, Mike.
I'll be back in a sec, but my disgust, I'm leaving.
So I haven't got the one with the full-length tongue on it, but so for me, I pull albums out sometimes, not because I love them, because they're a talking point. And back in 1986 or 7 or something, when I think it was middle of 87 when I first heard, oh, you've got that one, well done, nice one. I first heard Look What the Cat Dragged In. And even all these years on, 33 years on, Look What the Cat Dragged In is still a 9 out of 10 for me. I absolutely love it. And when this came out, this isn't even one of these back in the day it was awesome and now I think it's shit. This was utter shit back in the day. And I just kept one of the lasses who hung around with us at the time bought it, and we kept listening to it and listening to it. You know how you do. You think, well, it's the new Poison album. I need to try and get into it, and it just kept playing and playing and playing. And I think the production is like buzzy. I think it's just full of absolute shit. I can appreciate Every Rose Has Its Thorn for what it is, and I don't know. I just think what a massive drop off from Look What the Cat Dragged In. I've never loved it. I've actually only got it because I think I paid 50p for it, and it's for pure nostalgia. I think I'm in Stuart Moffat's bedroom all over again. Not that. No, we'll go with his sister Susan Moffat's bedroom all over again.
Yeah, is that the one with has that got Fallen Angel on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a good song. That's probably the best song on the album. But I remember listening to that. Must have been about a year ago now. But I remember I had it on in the car, and I thought, God, I didn't realise how shit this album is. Because What the Cat Dragged In is a great album. It's got some great songs on it, but that is it's so full of filler. It's unbelievable. And I know it can be appreciated probably in the 80s, but when you listen to it now, it's so tired. I mean, there's no really any. I mean, the best thing about it is the cover.
Yeah,
it's very dated, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm the same as Mike. I've only got it purely for nostalgia reasons. When we're talking about gateway albums, when I was getting into rock and metal, Look What the Cat Dragged In had come out. The look of the band, I wasn't a big fan of, but I quite like the music on there, you know. And then when that Open Up and Say R came out, excuse me, they were quite a big deal, Poison, weren't they, at the time? So, you know, Every Rose Had Its Thorn, the big ballad. But it's not an album that I listen to. I've not listened to it for a long, long time, and it's really only one that I've picked up as I've gone back and revisited bands that I remember from my youth, and I've thought, you know, I'd like a lot of those for my collection because, you know, it is the nostalgia thing. I listened to it back then, and I'd like it. Not one that I play. It does sound very dated to me, and it's not a patch on Look What the Cat Dragged In. Nowhere near. It's a very disappointing follow-up for me.
So I bought Look What the Cat Dragged In because it was on Music Relations, and the seller I bought it off on Discogs also had that album for £2 or £3 as well. So I think I picked up them both for about £6 with the combined postage. So it's not something I'll listen to a lot. I was interested to hear it because it was, you know, so big back in the day, and I wouldn't have touched it with, you know, 50-foot barge pole back then because it was just not my scene at all. But yeah, it's that when we started off and I showed Banshee and I was talking about American metal, that to me was very much the American MTV metal, or what's the way I think about it. It was made for TV metal. It was mass production, mass exposure, not necessary. Well, it definitely wasn't what I was listening to at the time. But I have those first two albums, but definitely the Look What the Cat Dragged In is so much better.
Q.
Perfect. P, perfect. Right, P, Q. Me, Mark G with a Q. Are you bored of me doing that yet?
Listen,
no, I like it.
I'll never get bored of it. Just becoming
okay. This is a band from Chicago. A band that I only recently, I say recently, in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, came about, and it was because it's one of these Metal Mind reissues. They've been doing a lot of reissues of road racer bands, and I came across this band, Quick Change, Circus of Death. This is pretty much a one and done band, as we spoke about before. I think this is an 88, originally an 88 release, and they disbanded in the early 90s. It's fun thrash. If you like Anthrax, SOD, Nuclear Assault, that kind of thing, you're going to love this band. Simple as that. I don't remember this band from back in the day, ever. Can't remember hearing them. It was only because it was purely, I was looking at Metal Mind's reissues and what they were putting out, and this popped up. It was decent money, so I had a little listen. And it's very good. Like I say, if you're into Anthrax and Stormtroopers of Death and that quick, sharp, tight thrash metal, not always serious lyrically. The songs on there like Sea Witch and Leave It to the Beaver. Yeah, simple as that. If you're a fan of Anthrax and SOD, you're going to love this band. As far as I know, it's a one and done album. And yeah, like Metal Mind. On a sort of off point, this Metal Mind, I believe they're like a Polish label, and sort of reading up on them a bit, I'm not even sure if this Metal Mind, when they do these reissues, they've got the actual rights properly. I think they just reissue whatever they want to reissue and just hope for the best, really. But yeah, quick change. Circus of Death.
Well, you've got me intrigued. Well, I've never heard of them, but given the bands that you've lumped them in with, then I think that's definitely one I'm going to check out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I'm with
the top two. Never heard it, but sounds pretty good.
Yeah, check them out. It's worth it. It's worth a listen, that's for sure. It's like I say, I believe it's their only album. So yeah, give it a whirl.
Sounds
the
good.
Metal Mind reissues, they get expensive really quickly.
They do.
The Metal Mind
Have you
reissues.
got, are those
Even if they're
Sadus
not
albums
official.
you've got? Are they Metal Mind?
The
Sadus
what?
ones?
No,
Sadus.
no, they're it's a French reissue label putting them out. I can't think of the name.
Listenable Records. Is
yeah.
Yeah.
Listenable
So
Records.
I think Listenable Records, they're doing the reissues legitimately. I'm sure I've read Metal Mind. Just I don't know what they do. They put them out there. I don't even think they've got any kind of affiliation to the bands or the labels or anything. Anyway,
I haven't got any of their reissues.
But you're right. They seem to increase in value. I know Zentrix is shut in existence. Have I mentioned Zentrix ever? But yeah.
Didn't you go to one of their gigs once?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Did you get a Christmas card off Chris Astley?
I'm getting bored of talking about myself now.
No, you're not.
What are we on now?
R.
So that's R. But it's not going to be pirate metal. It's going to be. So this is a band I don't expect many have heard of. I certainly had never heard of these when I get in there, Mark. Horrible stuff. I certainly never heard of these. I picked it up as a blind buy when I did an order from High Roller Record, but there are some links in here and some subsequent albums and bands that this went on to form. So it's kind of the top of a family tree for some people that some people would have heard. So my R is Race Against Time. Time Waits for No Man. Now, I can see the look of confusion on the faces. So the guy behind this band is a chap called Dave Halliday. Now, Dave Halliday was the guy that he was vocals and guitar on this band, but he was the guy who was Andy Sneap's mentor. So he pretty much taught Andy Sneap how to play guitar. And obviously, Andy Sneap went on to create his own band, Sabat, and then become to be the heavy metal producer that Mike admires the most that we have. Also, Dave Halliday was the guy who formed the band Hell. Now, Hell didn't. He did this in 1982. Now, Hell didn't really get anywhere. I think they were signed to Mausoleum just as Mausoleum went up, and I don't know if it's as a result of that, but he committed suicide in 1987. But Andy Sneap went on to basically produce this album. This came out in. So this came out in 2015. So it's one of those high roller reissues that they do so well of kind of early demos and stuff. And this is really good. It's your new wave of British heavy metal. It's not Iron Maiden or Saxon, Mike, so you probably wouldn't have heard of these. It's really good. It's got the same sort of speed and style of a lot of new wave of British heavy metal bands. But Hell were quite theatrical. They wore the makeup. They had a very sort of demonic look, but it was kind of traditional black metal done in a traditional black metal imagery done with traditional heavy metal style. Yeah, so this came out, I think, when did this one come out? This came out in 2011 on Nuclear Blast, and Andy Sneap also went on and did another Hell album in a similar vein. But my R is Race Against Time. Definitely worth checking out if you like the new wave of British heavy metal sound. And I thought it was quite a cool link with Andy Sneap. This is kind of the band that really influenced him, and I know he's a big friend of Mike. Do you still owe him that 20 quid, Mike?
I don't, but he certainly told me off in front of everyone for owing him. Horrendous. Even though they are new wave of traditional heavy metal, I will try them out just because of that whole link. Because Hell were good, and if he influenced Andy Sneap, Sabbath are unbeatable. So I'll definitely try them out.
Yeah, he was actually the mentor. I think Andy Sneap kind of got in and tried to get into get to know him, was roadieing and what have you, and just learning how to get into the business. Quite an interesting story. Good stuff.
Yeah, I recognised Halliday's name, and I was wondering where you were going to go with it. I thought he was some sort of producer, but where I've read it is I just actually picked up that Hell album in the last couple of months. I think I showed it in my last update actually, and I like that album. I think it's a great album. I've not heard the follow up, but that album is really good. I thought the vocals were a bit hard to get into, but I listened to the album a couple of times and I really enjoyed it. So if that's classed as new wave of traditional heavy metal, then I'm a fan.
New wave of British heavy metal. It's not new wave of traditional.
Oh, new wave of British heavy metal. Sorry.
Hell, or Race Against Time.
Well, I knew they were around back in the day.
Yeah, they didn't really say anything. So that album is mostly demos and studio stuff that they put together that Andy Sneap has obviously got hold of or still has the rights to and produced it. And it probably sounds a little bit different from the originals because, he likes to probably just sounds like every other album that's out at the moment that he does. But obviously it's something that he was passionate about. So it's going to be a little bit different from him just producing the Judas Priest or Saxon albums and using all the same settings on the dials as Mike.
So is Hell, is it re-recorded or is that from songs?
No, I think on this Hell album it features Dave Halliday. He's listed on it. The second album, which I actually got from you, Mike, didn't I?
You did.
You I bought that off you. I think this is all new stuff without Dave Halliday on, but it's kind of the same ilk, and it is really. I mean, it's very kind of theatrical, and the vocalist with Dave Halliday as well. I mean, you kind of see that picture there. It's, you can imagine it being sung in a a theatre stage rather than in a gig, and they would have the sort of the makeup was very sort of demonic, but the white faces and the black I guess lipstick and around the eyes and what have you, and the white hair, but it's very, very theatrical, a little bit over the top. And I could see how a lot of people perhaps wouldn't take to that, but yeah, I love it. I mean, Mike, I got that one off Mike first, and then I found Human Remains after. It's all really good stuff.
Yeah, I like everything that you've said about that. I'll definitely be checking them out. I picked up that Hell album only a couple of years ago. Nuclear Blast, I believe, isn't it? And I was dead impressed with it. And yeah, like Mike said, Andy Sneap and Sabat, they can do no wrong. So anything that's influenced a guitarist as good as that, I'm going to check them out. So I'll definitely. I've never heard of them, Race Against Time, but I'll certainly be checking them out for sure. It's
not like Sabat though. I mean, obviously,
no.
Thrash metal by a good 5-6 years, or 3 or 4 years at least. But how about this for a comment? This surprises me.
The guitarist plays keyboards with his feet live. Really?
That must be the
Shakespeare plays.
That's a talent, is it not?
Wow.
I can't play keyboard with any part of me.
That is a talent and half. That nice one, Liam.
I could play keyboards with my feet, but it would sound as bad as if I played it with my fingers, I have to say.
Where are we at now? T?
No.
Yes.
Oh,
calm down, Mike.
It again.
Calm down, Mike. Slave to the Skid Row. Slave to the grind. I reckon if you're going to talk about Skid Row, you've kind of got to talk about the first 2 albums. I mean, the others are a hit or miss, really, but it's these kind of the debut and Slave to the Grind that kind of split people between what's the best album. A lot of people say the debut. It's a lot kind of more hard rock, kind of softer, and this is obviously a bit more edgier, a bit faster, a bit harder as well. So when I first got into Skid Row, it was because of Motley Crue. Like I've said before, got into Motley Crue and was really looking for more bands that were along the kind of the same lines as Motley Crue. So that led me to Skid Row, first album. First song I heard of that was Youth Gone Wild. Absolutely loved it. Got right into Skid Row, and then I listened to this and I was like, all right, okay, it's a bit harder, but definitely like the debut better. And then as the years went on, my mind started to switch, and this is now by far my favourite Skid Row record. I mean, I can't remember the last time I played the debut, but I play this a lot compared to the debut. Some absolutely awesome songs on it. Mud Kicker, The Threat, Slave to the Grind, Quicksand Jesus. It's just got that kind of grittier edge to it. I mean, I'm not saying the debute's not good. It is a really good debut, but this is just absolutely awesome. And they just kind of lost it after Sebastian Bach left. So, Slave to the Grind, Skid Row.
Well, it's unbelievable how you've described that there when you got into Skid Row, what you thought of the first album, and then you went back and then what you thought of the second album. That is exactly what I did to a T. I thought the first album, when it came out, I missed Youth Gone Wild when it first came out. It was 18 and Life I caught onto first, and then I went back and got the album. Thought it was absolutely unbelievable, but then when Slave to the Grind came out, as you say, I was like, it's heavier, but I'm not really fussed. And then as the years went on, I just thought, what was I thinking? It's fantastic. Did you know that Sebastian Bach's dad drew that, painted that cover?
I did not know that.
Really?
Yeah. He's got in his house. He's got an enormous sort of mural on his wall of that. But yeah, it's fantastic album, and it that's kind of where I stopped. I didn't bother anything after that really.
So yeah, I'm really late on the Skid Row party. What's their debut album called again?
Skid Row.
Skid Row, is it?
I think.
Yeah.
I got that one. Obviously, not perhaps as memorable as it. I thought it was, but I enjoyed that one. I've never heard Slave to the Grind. Did you say that Sebastian Bach had left before that one or after that one?
After.
After. Okay. Yeah, so the only one I've heard is the first one, assuming that's a self-titled.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't mind it. I'm getting a lot more into the 80s, more sort of commercial metal sound than I was certainly back then. A lot more appreciative now. So
I think you'd enjoy it more because it is heavier and it's got a lot more proper
Oh,
heavy
no.
riffing in it.
You've sold me on it. I'll at least try and get that on CD if nothing else.
Yeah, I was impressed with Skid Row when I first heard them. A friend of mine had bought the album, and looking at them, they looked like, I suppose, a bit Guns N' Roses. They weren't quite glam metal looking, but they had that look about them.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was a guitarist had a chain going from his nose piercing to his ear piercing. Excuse me, but I was impressed because they were heavier than I was imagining they were going to be. I know they had like 18 and live, but again, the journey I was on, I only ever heard the first album, and Slave to the Grind. I'd only ever heard the one song. What was the single off? Is it Monkey Business? So I can't remember now.
Monkey Business. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the song I'd heard off that, but I was on a different path. But again, talking about nostalgia, I've picked it up, that album, purely for nostalgia reasons, and I enjoy it. Yeah, it's not an album that I listen to very often, but when I do ever hear any of the songs off, I enjoy it. But like I say, it was their debut. Really, I was quite impressed. I thought they were bridging a gap. You know, they were heavier than a lot of the other bands that kind of they were spoken about in the same terms, but I always found them a bit heavier. They had a few more riffs in there.
Yeah.
I seen them at Donington '92. So they were playing the stuff off that album, and it was funny because Sebastian Bach came running out onto the stage, and before he even sang a note, he fell right on his ass. There was some spillage on the stage or something, and he fell on his ass, and it was just funny as fuck. But they were actually probably my favourite band on the day at Donington '92, even above Slayer. And to be honest, I didn't even pay attention. Iron Maiden back then. I fell out with them by '92.
Wow. Skid Row better than Iron Maiden. Are you hearing this, Andy?
Yeah. Because No Prayer for the Dying had left such a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah. And I'd seen that tour and just thought, where's all the stage show? Where's all the, Bruce Dickinson just had a leather jacket with tassels on it and jeans on. And I'm thinking, I want the black and blue striped fucking, suit off the Live After Death. What's going on? And the Eddie was shit as well. It was just like, I don't know. It just seemed like a nothing stage show, but that was what they were going for at the time. But no one told me. I missed that memo.
Tea?
T.
Right, we're on tea.
This band here, I absolutely love them, and I've spoke about them a few times on my videos, and yet I don't ever see anybody going, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to try these." Like, and the CDs are about 50 pence each. They're fantastic, and no one ever jumps on them. It's television. This is Regular Urban Survivors, and they got their big break. They got their big break supporting Def Leppard in the Don Valley Stadium. They're from Bradford. They were called, I forget now, before television, but this is where they had the success. They had a #1 with a song called Tequila, which it's not representative of what you'll hear on any of the albums. It was just a cash-in job. In fact, on this particular album, you will hear influences from Anthrax.
What?
Yes, I know. That's why I've picked this album. You do hear a little influence from Anthrax, but they're just catchy pop rock songs, and I'm a big fan of these guys. And the singer and guitarist came to my friend's pub and done a free concert about 4 years ago, and there was about 40 or 50 of us watching. And I got the whole thing on video, and it was one of the best concerts I've ever seen. And then I helped them load their van up and where they went, and it was really I was really excited even all these years later. Fantastic band, but I just don't see anyone talk about them. And you can get their entire back catalogue. I would say you can get the entire back catalogue on CD for a £5. All together.
Wow. I think definitely that song Tequila. I've never really paid them any attention whatsoever.
What on earth is Andy doing?
What?
Why am I always the butt of the joke?
Yeah, I just never paid them any attention because I heard that Tequila song. I just thought it's just not my cup of tea. That it's pop rock. It's like Reef, you know. Do you remember Reef? Put your hands. It was like they were like the type of band that were going to play on TFI Friday with Chris Evans. I kind of I don't know. There was something about them, but I do know is a singer called Tony.
Yeah, Tony Wright.
Tony Wright, that's right. Yeah, I think he played at my friend's bar in Blackpool or Waterloo, music bar, maybe last year. And he said he was brilliant. He was
fantastic.
Did an acoustic show, but he was just brilliant. He had all the banter with the crowd. He was just really great and a dead nice fella.
That's what he's doing at my friend's pub. They're just acoustic guitars, and it's the banter. He's almost like a stand-up comedian. But I mean, I can't fault the albums. They're absolutely immense. They played Download, Donington '94, should I say? I've seen them. Seen them at Donington '94.
I'll certainly have to check them out. Especially, I'm really surprised at like the Anthrax sort of reference in there. It's just like you say, if Tequila isn't a fair representation of them, then I need to check them out because I've just thought of them as a little bit of a gimmicky, pop rock band. I'll check them out, mate.
Just refresh your memory there. Get it all up in you.
I had the album How to Win Friends and Influence People on. Yeah, I believe. I loved them at that time. I've not heard that album that you've shown there. But what was the was it Oblivion?
Oblivion, yeah.
Pretend Best Friend.
Yeah.
Wellington. I mean, that's kind of. I wasn't really listening to much metal around what 94 when you say there, and that sort of stuff. It was all still guitar based rock that I was listening to. It was more only maybe a bit of alternative, maybe indie stuff that was around at the time. But yeah, I did like TerraVision, but I just didn't stick with them.
I'm in the same boat as Mark. I just heard all I've heard is that song, and I kind of see TerraVision as one of those kind of bands that had the one-hit wonder with like the rest of the bands that are kind of lumped in those kind of novelty songs. So I should really go back and give them a shot. So
it's like judging Warrant on Cherry Pie.
Great song.
That's a couple of your argument, isn't it?
Nah, I'd go back and give them. I mean, judging by what you've said, they're definitely worth a listen. So,
especially the price.
Yeah.
I mean, they're certainly not metal, are they? But they are very much guitar-based rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good shout, Mike, because I completely forgotten about them.
Cool.
A B for a movie. Yeah, well, there is. I think there is one called TerraVision, actually.
Okay, you, Mark G, what are you?
Mark G,
We're
what
going
are
to
you?
bring it back.
The worst one so far.
Yeah, definitely is, isn't it? But I've got the worst letter so far, to be honest. Bring it back to the dark side of life now. All the way from Sweden.
Unleashed.
This is their debut album, Where No Life Dwells. 91 release. The backstory behind this band is the bass player and vocalist, Johnny Headland, I think he's called, if I remember right. He was originally in Entombed before they were called Entombed. They used to be called Nihilist. And I don't know what went on there, but I believe Nihilist literally split up and then reformed the next day as Entombed, but without Johnny Headland in them. So I don't know. It sounds like a bit of a shithouse thing to do to me, that, but I don't know what's gone on there. Where's Johnny? This guy. So this is the band he formed after leaving Nihilist. These are classed as one of the Swedish Big Four, and along with Entombed, Dismembered, Grave, but they're nothing like those three bands at all. A bit like the Teutonic Four in Germany. You know, you've got Creator, Sodom, Destruction, and Tankard. And Tankard aren't really like the other three bands. Unleashed are like the Swedish version of that. Not that they sound like them, but they didn't go for that HM2 buzzsaw guitar sound. And they're a lot more mid-paced. Talking about Immolation before and bands that would be good albums to listen to get you into death metal. This is one of them. There's a real structure to the songs. There's a real rhythm and pace to all the music. Still heavy, don't get me wrong, and the growly vocals. But, you know, when you hear about the term Swedish death metal, these are a little bit different. And they've kind of gone on to make God knows how many albums. They must be on about 12 or 13 albums now. And they've kind of gone on to class themselves as Viking metal, I think just purely because of the lyrical content. Musically, they still sound very similar to this. But yeah, Unleashed, Where No Life Dwells. Superb death metal. And like I say, definitely a gateway album if you're wanting to visit the dark side of life.
I think, well, that's the only Unleashed album I've got. It's the only one I've ever heard. But I think they sound a cross between the Swedish death metal sound and Autopsy. There's
Yeah.
a lot of Autopsy that I pick out of that album, and I prefer that album to a lot of the sort of the Swedish stuff that I'm probably supposed to like. You know, I mean, it's not quite as good as Left Hand Path, but
no, it's so different though. You know, considering the class as one of like in those 4 bands, it's so different to the other 3. That was all what threw me. You know, it's nothing like the other 3.
No, well, that's why I liken them to Autopsy, because they've got that paced Sabbath style death metal, and that's what I think that Unleashed album's like.
Yeah, there's sort of doomy elements in there, isn't there?
Yeah, it's good. I don't know anything else about them. It's funny, some bands I just think, I'm going to get that album, and even though I like an album, I instinctively know that I needn't go down that rabbit hole for any more. I don't know why it is. I just and that was one of them bands. I have that one, and that's it. But it is great.
Yeah.
Well, I've never heard Unleashed. That's probably going to be quite obvious, but it sounds like a band that I would quite fancy checking out.
I think any of their albums you could check out and quite enjoy them, because they are, you know, the classed as death metal, but the Liam just pointed out before, I think they class them as like melodic black metal nowadays. It's a funny term that I'm really not quite sure. You know, melodic death metal, but there's certainly, it's like Mike said, there's a real pattern and a real sort of rhythm and structure to the songs, which a lot of death metal bands don't have, you know. And I definitely think they're one of the bands that, if you're looking to, you know, a bit like Obituary, you know, there's something about Obituary, it's, you know, it's not palatable. It's not just all like, whoa, that's like really heavy for me at the moment. It's doable. I think you might enjoy them, Scott.
Nice one.
So what is melodic black metal? So I heard that I like Children of Bodom, and I've heard that they were classed as melodic death metal, and it has the keyboards in it, and I kind of get that. But what makes black metal melodic black metal?
Yeah, that's my because there's so many genres out there now. I'm not quite sure. You know, melodic death metal was, from what I believe, it was kind of coined a little bit around At the Gates, bringing out Slaughter of the Soul. That was kind of the first time I'd heard that, and this whole Gothenburg sound, and there was bands like In Flames, and anyway, that's a rabbit hole I'm going off there. But melodic black metal, I'm not quite sure, because black metal for me was always harsh, and it was the complete opposite of melody. A bit like, you know, they talk about speed black metal, Hell Ripper, and that. There's a reason there's black metal in there, because it's raw and in your face. So melodic black metal always sounds like a weird genre to me.
The only band I can think of that sounds like melodic black metal is Primordial. And they've been out since the 80s. They're an Irish band, and they've been out since the 80s. But they're quite slow. But you know how black metal has them discordant sort of chords ringing and fast sort of tremolo picking. Primordial are like that, but with sort of majestic vocals and that. In fact, right. I'll tell you how melodic they are. And I didn't do it for any other reason other than I thought she might like them. I actually recommended Primordial to Bev, so that's how melodic they are. I wouldn't do that, suggest anything like that to Bev if I didn't think there was a chance of it. So you guys might like them.
Cool. I need to check them out, because I've heard of them but never heard them. But Liam said it there in one of those quotes, and obviously said Mike's just used a perfect example of it there. maybe that's the answer, Andy. Melodic black metal is that picking style, but with those sweeping vocals.
Yeah, because otherwise, the only thing I can say about Unleashed in its flavour, bearing in mind I've not heard of them, is that I can actually read band name. So
You can read the logo.
Yeah, I could read that. I would know that's Unleashed. So there was perhaps some glint of hope that I could listen to it and appreciate it. Who knows?
Super. Who's
Next up?
Here we go.
So what's Brendan here? He's late to the party. Yeah, I wasn't even invited to the party, Brendan. So yeah. So there we go. Yeah, so we're on V. Now, I am going to show a black metal album.
Bollocks.
But it's not a black metal album. Now, this is an album that I mean, even though it says slightly embossed, you might be able to see it black metal across the bottom. So Venom is a band I avoided like the plague for decades. I'd heard about the whole, as I'm stroking his beard, I heard about the whole black metal. This is where black metal started. This is where all the extreme metal started. And Venom are evil, and I didn't avoid them because they were evil. In the same way that I kind of avoided Slayer because they were just too damn aggressive for where I was at the time. And I avoided Venom because I assumed it would be the same thing. But it's not. I found this in a record store in Edinburgh. The cover, you can see, looks pretty beat up. And I flicked past it and I thought, oh, that's Venom. They're really quite popular. That's someone would love that album. And it was 15 quid. And I just went past it. And I carried on flicking. And I looked up on my phone and thought, actually, 15 quid is a bloody good price for this. Maybe I could flip it. And bearing in mind, I don't sell any records. I buy things and they always end up in my collection because I never sell anything. I ended up going back and buying it just because I thought I could probably, it's a record that's worth something and someone will pick it up and I'll get my money back really, really easily. The vinyl, as it turned out, is in really, really good condition. It's not near mint by any means, but it's a very good plus. But when I actually gave it a spin, I was totally shocked how totally not black metal this is. This is new wave of British heavy metal meets Motorhead that have taken a little bit more speed than perhaps they would have for their own albums. It's fantastic. It's absolutely brilliant, but it's not black metal. I don't know what this means above. I'm sure people probably will. It's on Neat Records out of what they were. Was it Neat? It was the Newcastle. Yeah, Neat was from Newcastle. I think Venom are from Newcastle as well. Are they not? And but I love this album now, and I am so glad that I just picked this up, even if my intentions of picking it up weren't so much genuine to myself. But there we go. I am a Venom convert, and this is one fantastic new wave of British heavy metal album.
You need to pick up Welcome to Hell.
I do.
Yes.
Oh.
It's such an influential album, and so many bands from the black metal scene, especially the Norwegian. I think they call it the second wave of black metal. But I've got the CD, and I think the CD cover sums it all up. Because if you can see down the spine,
yeah,
this is obviously a reissue on Neat Records again. But that says it all. It is a new wave of British heavy metal album, and I can only presume, and I think to be honest, there were some elements of the Norwegian black metal bands that definitely incorporated a little bit of the new wave of British heavy metal, and I think Dark Throne nowadays are more of a new wave British heavy metal band than they are a black metal band. But I can only sort of, I mean, Fraser said that it's the beginning of black metal. I think it's one of those arguments that we could have regarding Possessed and their song Death Metal on their album. You know, is it the beginning of black metal because they coined the term black metal?
Mm.
Is it the beginning of black metal because the lyrical content was, you know, Countess Bathory and Bloodlust and songs like Nightmare and At War with Satan? It's a real topic for argument, and I think it always will be. Like I say, the same as Possessed and where did death metal start? I think lyrically, there's no doubt about it, but
I think they may have coined the name for the genre, but the sound wasn't there. The lyrical content, absolutely, it was pure. It was venomous. It was anti. Bear in mind, I've had a couple of beers. Establishment. That's it. I managed that. Fantastic. You know, it was everything that people. It was everything kids wanted about heavy metal. It was anti-religious. It was.
Oh yeah.
It was bang on in terms of that. And then the black metal thing kind of took that to the extreme. But then they also changed the sound of it. I mean, it's Venom is maybe badly played new wave of British heavy metal. It's raw. It's more of a speed metal, as I say. It's more like Motorhead let loose.
Yeah.
I
wasn't impressed when I first heard it. I wasn't impressed at all. I thought it was loose. I thought it was like, I've heard bands playing better than this. You know, it sounded a bit shit, if I'm dead honest with you. You know, but
I understand.
I've since warmed to it. I've since kind of gone back and revisited it and listened to it with the ears of respect, I suppose, for what it means to a lot of people. And you can definitely kind of get that. But it's if no one had, you know, I think for someone listening the first time, I think it's quite a hard listen, to be honest.
I agree. I mean, I'm going to say right now, I'm not a massive fan of Venom. Like you say, it's frantic. It's very loose is a good word to describe it. It's very just like all over the place. Doesn't seem like there's much structure to it. So, like you say, it's hard to concentrate and listen. Obviously, you can see where the influences come from for the black metal, because all the themes are there in the lyrics. But I mean, it's heavy metal, really. But like you say, it's hard to listen to because it's just all at once, and there's no like path. It's all just going everywhere, and you're just trying to like figure out what's going on. So yeah, I mean that's probably why I'm not a massive fan of it. It's just a bit kind of all over the place for me, really. It's not got structure. If I'm going to listen to something that's like, even like my favourite thrash bands have got really good structure. It's like more technical. When that's a bit more like, right, you play that, let's go, turn up and just go bang. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually found it because I was literally 30 years plus to relate to the album. I actually found it a really easy listen. As I avoided it early on because I was programmed to, you know, through the media or what I heard and what I'd read, the extreme stuff. And as I say, even things like, I mean, it's, if you look at the first Slayer album, it's that put me right. I listened to that and I thought, what the fuck? I just couldn't get my head around it. It's just like, it was too fast, it was too heavy, there was no structure to it. I just didn't get it at all. And I kind of presume Venom was the same vein. And I hadn't heard. I mean, this is black metal was 1982. This is before, you know, any thrash metal, black metal, death metal, or whatever was even thought of. It was just metal. and it wasn't as melodic as the likes of Maiden, Saxon, and there's other bands were. I don't know whether they're accomplished musicians. I'm not a muso enough to know that, but it kind of sounds like they just went for it and they tried to do something a bit different. But
yeah,
they
sound like a bunch of pipe fitters just having a jam, don't they? That's how raw it is. It sounds like some lads who were just, and I suppose that's the appeal of it as well. It's. I think you can listen to that, and if you were starting a band and wanted to be extreme, you could play them songs quite easily,
But I would never consider telling them to get rid of it, because it's just, I'll put it on and it's just kind of sheer joy hearing the. It's like sheer abandonment of just playing it. They're just going for it, and it's fun. It's a fun album. It's not an evil, dark. My soul is damned for listening to it. It's just like it's fun. I love it. There was
What does it say on the back? Listen to the quote off the back of it, which I always just thought was great. It says, "We drink the vomit of the priests, make love with the dying whore, we suck the blood of the beast, and hold the key to death's door." And then in brackets, "to be continued."
Yeah.
Classic. So it sounds like fun. It sounds like lots of fun, that, doesn't it?
It does. I'm sold.
I think the first Bathory album just takes a lot of that album as well and pushes a bit further again. There's some, believe it or not, in the first Bathory album, as raw as that is. You know how the Venom albums are quite bass heavy, aren't they? And you get a big loose bass sound, and the first Bathory albums like that, and it's just like the Venom album, only the vocals are a bit more extreme. I actually think that Venom album is the first black metal album, not only in name only. I think it's the first one. Everything's got to evolve. That's the first, and the next step was the first Bathory, and then it got more extreme than that.
It's definitely one of those subjects that I think everyone. I mean, black metal. The first black metal I heard, really, there was no bass. It was just drums and guitar, and shrieking vocals. So when you listen to Venom black metal and that rumbly bass, and there's plenty of bass in there, it's like, I understand it is definitely an influence, but it doesn't sound black metal as you sort of listen to Dark Throne and Mayhem and Immortal and Emperor. It was dead trebly and raw and harsh, and that's not what Venom ever sounds like to me. It's a strange one. It's one of those arguments we could go on till God knows what time about it. So
it sounds like it was like an enabler, like Mike said with Bathory.
Yeah.
Although someone said, "Fucking hell, that was." I wasn't expecting that. They could make that sound. What if we just toned it up a little bit and just did this instead?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Bathory toned it up most with the vocals. The music for the first Bathory album isn't a million mile away from the Venom album, but the vocals are just so fucking hateful. It's ridiculous, which I love.
And that's the thing, you see, because some people will say they'd listen to Bathory and say Bathory is the beginnings of black metal. It's one of those arguments that you could just go on and on and on. You really could.
Well, should we not? Should we move on ourselves?
Yeah.
Do it.
And we're making actually pretty good time compared to last time. So W. Classic. I'm going to put you on big screen. I might disappear for a second, but you go for it, Scott.
Right. Wrathchild America, not to be what's the word I'm looking for? Not to be
Confused.
confused with Wrathchild UK, who are a glam band. There's not really much I can say about the band, but all I can say about the album is it's an awesome album. I think they've only released 2 albums. This was their debut, and I don't know if you probably all know the story about Wrathchild and having to change their name and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I listened to this album and I was expecting just like a heavy thrash in your face, but it was actually completely different. It just really took me by surprise. You know, it's melodic, it's technical, it has a lot of tempo changes. There's almost like hard rock in there, to heavy metal, to thrash. I think it just shows a lot of variety in one album. I mean, not even from like song to song, but even in each song, there's a lot of different things going on. And it's just an all-round great album. I'd say it's like a 9 out of 10 album. People should have this and listen to it. I can't really say much else because I don't really know much about the band, but it's an amazing album. So it should definitely be listened to. So that's Wrathchild America and Climbing the Walls.
Yeah, fantastic album. I often see that described as a thrash album, and I don't really get that. I think it's a fantastic American heavy metal album. I've not actually listened to it for a while. I've had it for a long time, but I've not listened to that for a while. So I'm definitely going to pull that one out and as I'm doing, rip it and listen to it a bit more often. That's one I definitely need to revisit. But yeah, fantastic album. Really love it.
See, they went on to be Souls at Zero. Brad Divins and I can't remember the name now. They grew up in the same town as Greeno. I think he knew them personally, a guy that used to make videos in the VC. And they went on to be Souls at Zero. And by the time I'd heard of Wrathchild America, but I hadn't heard them. And I got the first Souls at Zero album, and I was just absolutely blown away. So years later, when I finally got the Wrathchild America album, I thought, yeah, it's all right. It's definitely the same band, I can tell, but it ain't no Souls at Zero. And I just thought they took that formula that they had with Wrathchild and expanded on it and improved it in every way for Souls at Zero. So just unfortunately for me, I got those albums the wrong way around, and it left me not loving that Wrathchild album as much as you guys seem to. But I recommend you check out Souls at Zero. Same singer, same guys, different name.
Yeah, I'd never heard of Souls at Zero, so good shout.
Yeah,
I've
heard of them.
Sorry, Matt.
No, it's all right. Sorry, go on.
No, sorry.
He only had 2 albums out, but both the first one's the best one.
I've only heard of Souls at Zero because you've mentioned them, Mike. But I'm late to the party. That is a thrash metal album cover, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great cover.
You know what I mean? So you look at that. I don't know why, whether because there was an English band, Wrathchild, at the time, and they were pure glam metal, and these guys. I mean, from '89, I don't remember this at all. Back in '89, I've picked it up since, and I completely agree with what Andy said. You know, it's lumped in with being a thrash metal album. It certainly isn't a thrash metal album. It's got elements of it, but it's just a really good heavy metal album. And I enjoy it. I've not listened to it a great deal, but from what I have heard of it, I really enjoy it. They know what they're doing. You know, it's good. But I'll certainly check out what they call Lost
Souls at Zero.
Souls at Zero. Sorry, Souls at. I'm gonna write that down.
We've got 2 videos out which you can watch on YouTube for Grey World and Never. They were the two first videos. So if you have a look on YouTube, I'll give you a good taste of it.
Nice
The
one.
guy's
Yeah,
got a good voice, doesn't he? So
yeah. They're a good band of it. You know, I like them. But you always hear them labelled as thrash, and I find that it probably does them a disservice, really. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's elements there. There's definitely elements, but it's not a straightforward thrash album.
No.
there's a song on the first Souls at Zero album called "Welcome to the '90s," and in the breakdown for the middle eight, they kick into a flamenco thing, and it's absolutely fantastic. You've got to listen to "Welcome to the '90s."
Is it really fantastic?
I'm sold.
Write that shit down.
Did you threw me there when you said, because I thought you were going to say they went into this break that was completely full on thrash metal. Because
No.
I was not expecting flamenco to be just.
The rest of the songs go on thrash metal, but then the middle eight goes into flamenco and then back into thrash. You've got to check out "Welcome to the '90s."
I do have to check that out now because
Yeah, I do.
You've got me there.
Flamenco thrash. Marvelous.
Right. Before we go on to the next, Mark, that VCLT package you sent me last week, that coaster, did you send it on because it basically sticks to the glass every time you pick it up?
No, I didn't realise it did that.
Yeah, it's
is that
every time I pick it up, I'm like, get down, get off.
Is it because you've spilt beer down the side of your glass and the bottom of your glass is now sticky?
Well, a good coaster would absorb the beer, I have to say, and not
dribbling
to the glass. I realise we're going slightly off topic here now, but anyway,
I've actually got full on mats that you put your dinner plate on in the size of a record as well. And that's quite good. If you've got children and they knock the table, it don't go anywhere. It just sticks to it. So
anyway, I digress. So are we on X? Is that where we're now?
We are.
WXX.
Who's our X?
Right, take it away, Mark.
Woohoo!
I'm not getting involved.
This is until 3 o'clock now.
What happened with this band was I went to see them once, and for everyone that went to see them, they took our names at the door, and we got our name. No, that's not even my story. One of my friends discovered this first, and he brought it to all our attention. As soon as we heard it, we thought, oh, it's like a mini Testament, and just loved it ever since. It was always England's equivalent to Testament, and unfortunately, the UK thrash scene always seemed to play second fiddle to the American one, and probably deservedly so, because they put out a more jokey element than the Yanks did. So they deserve to be in Division 2, but there's still some great to be had, and for my money, this is up there with the two Sabbath first albums as the top layer of UK thrash. But I mean, Mark has a far better story than that.
Yeah, he can go last.
Yeah. I'll go last because you lot can probably go and make yourself some toast and tea while I'm yapping.
Yeah. Oh,
Well, all I'd say is I really like Zentrix because they do have that more serious and technical way about them. Like you say, it's more of the American style rather than the UK style. I mean, Shattered Existence and is it Whose Advantage that follows it? I mean, they're brilliant albums. I mean, they should be up there with the American and the kind of German thrash, but yeah, I just love that more technical side of it, and that's where kind of Zentrix were coming from. So I think it's a great album.
Yeah, I've still not heard that one. I've been on a massive UK thrash metal kick over the last year, seeking out all different bands, and Zentrix are probably one of the hardest to come by because they're one of the most popular. I mean, on CD, I think those ones are ridiculously priced. On vinyl, they're quite heavily priced as well. So I only have a certain live show that some people have been to and bang on about occasionally in my collection when it comes to Zentrix. And but yeah, they were the A tier of UK thrash metal at the time. A proper thrash metal band.
Proper thrash metal, yeah. Do you really want to hear my story? To be honest, again,
because I do need to pee, so you go for it.
Yeah, on you go.
I'm not going to. Brilliant. So literally, I have been left alone. Oh, I feel quite. Can you see that? This cassette was sent to me only the other day by Peter, who's hopefully still watching. But thank you very much for that. Zentrix, the first ever live show I went to was these guys at the Tatch in Blackpool. So I've got a real soft spot. And I'm genuinely worried that the rest of the lads have pissed off to make something to it. Yeah. If these guys would have been American, they would have been a lot bigger. The really tight, well thought out thrash metal. Definitely elements of Metallica, I suppose, with Chris Astley's vocals. Brendan is just saying there, Bury the Pain. That was their comeback album, and it is an absolute cracker. They had the first album, Shattered Existence, the second album. Hey, here we go, boys. I tell you, the pressure was on there being left alone. Yeah, this is their debut, the second album, Whose Advantage. They're essential. A couple.
What the fuck is he eating?
Sardines.
I can smell it from here. Fucking hell, man.
Jesus.
What time is it? Sardines.
Tomato sauce.
During
Oh,
Zentrix.
wow.
For goodness sake.
Yeah. I'm not. I refuse to tell my story now. It's you know.
The guy has no respect.
No, it's just a great band. And the drummer Dennis Gasser, he also plays in a friend of mine. Her boyfriend is the vocalist in a band, and he plays in that band as well. So he's been going and doing it for ages. But yeah, oh, go on, Bennett. But for anybody watching who doesn't know the story already, I am going to tell the story, boys, because it's kind of built it up for.
And also, Mark, this is a brand new channel. There were going to be some people who don't know us. You're going to come here.
You've got to tell it now.
They're going to stay.
Up to it.
They're going to
as
stay.
much as we're laughing, yeah, people might be thinking, what they're all laughing about? Why aren't they being serious? But yeah, Zentrix are from a town just outside of Preston in the UK called Leyland, and that happens to be about I don't know, 15 miles away from where I was born in Blackpool. So, like I said, the first gig I went to was in Blackpool. Shrapnel, I've got an album by Shrapnel. They're a good band as well. Yeah,
I've seen Shrapnel live. They played up in Glasgow in the last couple of years.
Yeah, they're good band. So anyway, over the years I've seen them sort of 3 or 4 times now. But this they released this EP, Dilute to Taste, and it was recorded at Preston Polytechnic back in 80, maybe no 90, was it 91? Maybe 90. And the story is the big story, and I'm going to tell it you now, and it's going to be a proper anticlimax. But as we walked in to see the band, and you know they were doing well. They were signed to Road Racer Records, so they were traveling all over the world. So I don't know if it was a bit of a thank you to the sort of UK fans before they went over to America. But there was a book on the entrance to the gig. And they asked everybody who attended the gig to sign it. So we all signed our name in it, not really knowing what it was for. They just said, "Can you put your name down in here?" And as it happens, when they released this album, every single person who had signed the book was on the thanks list. So the thanks list inside this has got hundreds and hundreds of names. And as you can see, my channel name is Mark G with a C. So the reason for it being Mark G with a C is because my first name is spelt with a C, and the bastards spelt my name with a K. I am on the thanks list. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but I am on the thanks list as Mark Gibson, but it's Mark with a K.
That's not you then.
So I can tell Andy's looking for it now.
I have found you on here before. I can't find you now. It's almost like it because it's spelled wrong. It doesn't exist.
Nah, it doesn't count now.
Exactly.
You were never there.
Exactly. And the singer out of Enchantment who came along with me at the time, and I'm sure another couple lads, his name's Paul Jones, which is like the most sort of generic English name you're ever going to hear. And they spell that right. You know, Mark. I don't know. So, yeah, I don't hold it against them. One of my favourite bands. I have a real soft spot because, like I say, this was the first ever heavy metal gig I went to. And I love them. And they played recently against my friends. Is it there? Can you actually see it?
No, there is a Mark Hairy Bum Cheeks. Aaron, is that you?
No, it's definitely not me.
I'll say Mark G with a K.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I did find you on here once before because there's
definitely
a Mick the Bastard. Are you
Were you there, Mike?
I tell you what, though, there's no comparison for this and the rest of the catalogue, is there?
No. The
Head and Shoulders above everything else.
They did these two, Kin and Scourge. Yeah, I've got them because I like the band. You know, like I say, I've got a soft spot for them. But they're nothing. The first two albums, Shattered Existence and Whose Advantage. Anyway, brilliant. You know, essential UK thrash. But they went off that. But then their new album, Bury the Pain. I don't know if any of you guys have got that, but it's brilliant.
I didn't know they had a new album.
Yeah. I'm with Gareth there. Gareth, you're spot on, mate. Bastards.
I've not heard the full album, but what I've heard is pretty good.
It's true. You see, Andy, it's true. That's the new album, Bury the Pain. What a cracking cover that as well.
I'll never show that now. But it's not. I need to.
Do check it out because it's a real return to form. And the new vocalist they've got, it's not the original singer. The new vocalist, he does sound very much like the original vocalist, so it doesn't sort of detract from the fact that it is Zentrix with a new singer. It kind of just carries on. It's very good. Highly recommended.
Excellent. Okay, let's tape as well. Is that something you got recently, Mark?
This is off Peter. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's still watching, but he was watching earlier. This is what he sent me in that.
we could do nice links to people's recent videos. We're on the ball.
Yeah, superb. So I'm lucky enough to have it on all 3 formats now.
Is your name spelt wrong in all 3 formats on the? Oh no, that's
Yeah.
isn't it? Sorry, I didn't need to pick it up again. Sorry.
His face.
Let's do Y, shall we?
Y.
Why not?
Yeah, Mark G with a Y. Now this is a Belgian band. Not many bands that I know coming out of Belgium. There's a death metal band called Carnation, but I picked this purely because I haven't got very many albums by bands beginning with Y, really. And this is a band called Your Highness from 2011. This is their debut release. And the album is called...
Nice.
Yeah, it's quite full on, that, isn't it? These are what I suppose you would call a sludge metal band. It's like doomy, a bit stonery, but I think they class them as sludge metal. It's on the Hammerheart Records label. It's decent. It's not an album that I've listened to very much. And it's not one you could go into the shop and ask for, is it? You don't happen to have Your Highness, do you? Their debut album. But it's good. Yeah, it's good. If you like sludge metal, it's good. The cover art kind of intrigued me a little bit. And I didn't pay much for it. So I give it a whirl. I don't really know much about sludge metal, if I'm honest. And it's certainly not it's not riveting enough to make me go looking for anything else by them. But at least it's my why. Your Highness. And
what is it? Sorry, your
Aye.
microphone keeps cutting out when you say the name.
Your audio's away.
don't make me say it.
I'll tell you what that album says to me. You need to go and buy Y&T's Main Streak if you ever need to do this again.
Yeah. I don't own any Y&T, so that's why that came in.
I don't like sludge metal at all. I don't get the whole crowbar thing, and I hate God if that's what they do and things like that.
I quite like that stuff. I quite like that stuff. Yeah.
But no, I can't offer anything for that. I've never heard of them.
I've never heard of them, but I will definitely check it out. I don't mind a bit of sludge, a bit of if it's on the sludge, the doomy, sludgy.
It is very much so. Yeah, definitely. I think if anyone out of us was going to like it other than me, it'd certainly be Andy. Yeah. I mean, it's dirtier than Crowbar. I Hate God quite. I always liked I Hate God because they were signed to Century Media at a similar time as my band, so you kind of were aware of them, so you checked them out a little bit. But yeah,
this band Gert is a bit sort of doomy and sludgy, but
I've seen you show that before.
Yeah.
I need to check that out.
The title of the album is by no way as
offensive. That's what it is. It's just offensive.
Yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? So what was that one called again, Mark? Yeah, your audio's cut out again.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Hey,
I can't really win. So
thanks for watching, Brendan. Take care, mate.
Yeah,
cheers, Brendan. Yeah, I can't really win. I don't really listen to sludge. I couldn't even tell you what sludge really sounds like. Does it sound like sludge? Yeah, it's not really. Especially when you're saying it's not, you wouldn't really even go and buy any more of their albums. It's not really selling it to me either. So.
Yeah, it's not. It's worth a listen. If you're into that type of music, I'd certainly give it a whirl, have a listen to it. But it's I think sludge metal, and Mike said it there, sludge metals, it's not for everybody,
Nah.
It's a real sort of mix between styles, and I think sometimes it's good and you enjoy it when you're listening to it, but there's not sometimes that much memorable about it afterwards. You enjoy it when you're listening to it and you think, yeah, there's some nice riffs in there, and it's but it doesn't really resonate with you later on, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I've got to be in the mood for it, but what I am, it's kind of, and it's the sort of music actually that's better played if you've had a few beers and it's been played, and it's just it's kind of, I think it's kind of atmospheric, and you just get into it. It's cool. It's cool. So it's not something I listen to a hell of a lot, but considering the almost like you could class it as one of the extreme forms of metal, and considering I don't really listen to black metal and death metal and what have you, then it might be surprising that it's clicked with me, but I don't mind it. It's good stuff. Right, we are on to the last one. And we're going full circle from your first Mark, which was Atrophy, and your introduction to Atrophy, I believe, was Stars on Thrash. We are going from Atrophy A to Z, and my introduction to Snow White and Baptized by Fire, and this is a fantastic thrash metal album. Definitely thrash metal. Act of God. Weird cover, but one of my favorite thrash metal bands of all time. One of my favorite thrash metal albums, not the band of all time. This is the only thing I've got by them. But was it Ian Tafoya? He's the main guy, and Nicole Lee, her vocals. So female-fronted thrash metal, I think in the 80s was a pretty rare thing. But this whole album it's nearly a 10 for me. To the Last Breath, Baptized by Fire, which I think is the one on Baptized by Fire is the one on Stars on Thrash. Pure Blood, War Machine, Thunderdrome, Disease, Bigotry, A Soldier's Creed, and Something Wicked This Way Comes is a great, creepy, full-on thrash metal anthem. It's on Roadrunner, the same as the Stars on Thrash album. Honestly, this is a wake-up call. If you've not heard Snow White and you're a thrash metal fan, go and check this one out. It is absolutely worth the admission ticket alone.
I've not actually heard that album all the way through. I've seen a lot of people show it, and it's. Do you know what? I love the cover. It's a cover that really sticks out to me. I really like that cover, but it's not an album I've really. It's not an album I've heard all the way through, so I'll definitely have to get on that.
Yeah, it's kind of it's gritty. The songs are fantastic, and God, the unusual thing about the 80s is you've got a black guy in a thrash band, and man, this guy can write some fantastic songs.
I'm going to give that a try, because if you're saying it's like a 10, I have to try it. I remember them back in the day, and I remember being put off by that album cover, I'm afraid. But
that's exactly was me.
And I just can't remember the song off Stars on Thrash. but I will have heard it at the time. But the cover and the name, I just thought, no, move along. You know, there's other things. So if you're giving it that higher praise, I'm going to have to give it a try. Definitely.
It's great, Mike. I mean, I just it's one of those ones I kind of I forget how good I think it is, and I go back and put it on and just think like, yeah, brilliant. I'll play that one again.
I class myself, as you well know, as a thrash metal fan, and quite embarrassingly, I've only ever heard that one song by them on Stars on Thrash. So I'm exactly the same as Mike. I seriously need to get my hands on that. I have shown other people. I know Ron Haggerty, he's a big fan of that and shows it quite a bit on his channel. And I've got no other explanation other than the cover. Sorry, Scott, but the cover is awful. It's terrible.
I love that cover.
For a thrash album cover, some old day with a pool ball in her hand. You know,
Ask the Ape.
She's got out a bingo.
she's off down the bingo to put that ball in her sock. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but that's definitely putting me off. And it's a bit of an odd name for a band as well, isn't it? You know,
it is. I mean, this is 1988. I think after this one, Nicole Lee. I mean, and she has got kind of it's screechy vocals at times, but it's also it kind of really suits the mood of the album. And it's not always screechy. Don't know that put you off, but yeah, it's one that's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, it's definitely on my want list for sure. Definitely.
I'll bet you can't pick the CD up for less than 50 quid.
I bet you it is expensive. I bet that vinyl's expensive now as well.
Oh God!
I don't think
super cheap for a while ago. I think.
I don't
think it's too bad.
Really? Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen it on CD.
No, I don't think. I'm trying to think now, and I don't think I've ever, because you know sometimes when I'm looking on eBay and I'm a bit bored, I'll pick out the compilation and just start having a look through and think, oh right, yeah, Paradox and Toxic and Hades and bands like that. You think I didn't really pay much attention to back then. There's no way it's one of them, and I can't ever remember seeing that on CD ever.
Do you know what I said? I picked that up cheaply on record. So I just looked. I bought that in 2014, and it cost me 11 quid then. So God knows what it goes for now.
Yeah,
foolish, and but it was one of the first albums that I sought out when I started collecting vinyl again because of the song. Baptized by Fire on that thrash album. And I started picking up bands specifically because they were on this one. So I think it's quite nice that we started off with this one, Mark, and and we've ended up back where we started again.
It's a nice little link, that's it.
Mm-hmm. And the same reason that none of us jumped on Atrophy, and you did, and then no one else jumped on Snow White, and I did. So it just shows what a good mix of sounds that was on it.
It's almost like we know what we're doing.
If it was planned, it would have been awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So that's it. We're at the end of part 3 of our A to Z. Another, I think, successful outing, fellas.
Well, enjoyed every minute of it, and thanks to everybody who's watched it, stuck with us. It means the world, guys. It's good to have you watching and just sharing music with everybody out there. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah. Some you know, some you don't.
Yeah.
And you get to see one of us eating sardines in tomato sauce on his bed.
Maybe edit that bit out.
Happy to help.
Right, so let's end it out here, guys. We will be back with part 4, so we will all have had a chance with those letters that we're doing, and I don't know when we're going to get around to it, but I'm sure it will be soon, and I hope you can all join us again soon. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for those who watched the whole
guys.
Legends,
Take care.
and we'll see you again soon. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.